Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the joint meeting between the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors and the school board. Ms. Steele, would you call the roll?
Dr. Orth? Here. Dr. Leming?
Yes,
Mr. Hutson?
Here.
Mr. Chriscoe, sorry. Mr. Nicosia?
Here.
Ms. Hanson? Here. Mr. Bonniville?
Here.
All present.
I would also like to welcome all of you tonight for our joint meeting with the school board and the supervisors. And for that, Jen, would you please call roll?
Mr. Andersen.
Here.
Ms. McPherson.
Here.
Mr. Drew.
Here.
Ms. Saulman.
Here.
Ms. Arsenovic.
Here.
Ms. Scruggs.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
All that are able, would you please rise for the invocation by the Honorable Christopher Hutson?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come here together jointly to work on the needs and the goods of the county. While we work as Board of Supervisors and the school board, let us be mindful of what each needs to do to make the county a better place to live. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Parker would like to introduce our pledge leader.
Our pledge leader this evening is Madison Montgomery. She is a third grade student at Body Tide Elementary who excels both in and out of the classroom. She has earned all A honor roll throughout third grade and is a kind and supportive friend to everyone. Outside of school, Madison enjoys singing and acting. She has performed in several productions with the Courthouse Players and looks forward to participating in many more in the future. Madison also loves playing softball and is currently a member of the Gloucester Youth Baseball and Softball League. Thank you, Madison, for being here this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madison.
Thank you, Madison. Next up, I would take a motion for adoption of the agenda. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
All right. I need a motion to approve the agenda for this evening, the school board.
Move that we approve the school board agenda as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next, we have the adoption of the consent agenda. So moved. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. We'll move now to, what's that? Okay.
Well, I thought we were included. Okay. Consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Next, we'll have matters presented by the board. Do the Board of Supervisor members have anything they wish to bring forward at this time? Ms. Parker? Does the school board have anything?
No. School board? Anyone have anything? No. So we'll move on.
Yep. County Administrator items. Ms. Steele.
Just one item that we were notified by VACO about a collective bargaining legislation that has passed the General Assembly and requested that you consider a resolution to send to the governor, and that'll be on your next agenda on the 26th.
Unless she signs it before then, correct?
Right, because she could sign it early. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Vladu.
Well, good evening. I do not have any updates.
Okay. Next up will be public comment period. Speakers, if you would please come forward, state your name, magisterial district, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the boards and Dr. Vladu. Larry Cohen, York District. My comments tonight are in memory of our good friend Howard Mowry. It appears that once again both boards are over budget. Some advisors have advocated raising taxes. We, the citizens, have not elected you to raise taxes. This is a coward's way out. We expect you to work within the originally proposed budgets. I would like to assist by proposing that the school save approximately $315,728 by choosing not to have SROs at any of the schools starting in 2027. The placement of law enforcement officers in multiple schools is not really to enhance the safety of the students. A patrol car is only minutes away and better equipped to deal with an emergency. The luxury of having a law enforcement officer is not justified given the infraction record, fortunately, of the schools in Gloucester County. We do not live in Los Angeles, we do not live in Atlanta, we do not live in New York for a reason. Given the budget situation, Dr. Vladu and his staff are well equipped to develop procedures to summon law enforcement promptly, and along with delaying some of the proposed new programs for 1 or 2 years, should be able, in my opinion, to work within a budget acceptable to the county. Many of the school problems have been caused by homeschooling. If 75% of the students who are now being homeschooled but were formerly county school attendees, if they were to return, there would be materially more funding for the school and perhaps enough to stay with the budget that they would like to stay with. Over 1 year ago, I proposed to Ms. Arsenovic that board members participate in recruiting these students to return. The board did nothing. Next, I would recommend that the Board of Supervisors can also delay low priority projects like the Gloucester Point Beach project for 1 or 2 more years. There are a number of these items that could wait the more appropriate time. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and remember, you're elected, so let's be true to what you're here for.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josiah Ruffo. I'm from Petsworth District. I think if I read your site right, y'all practice content moderation. I think if it's not connected to the agenda, whatnot, we're not supposed to speak on it, so I want to honor your role. I just printed off about 5 issues, various things, whatnot, got 12 copies for your consideration, what have you. So I don't know who I give that to.
Give it to me.
Oh, super duper.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't have a pen to sign in.
Here's your phone. I have a pen.
Thank you. Not prepared.
Would you like to say anything?
Well, sure.
You've got 2 minutes and 20
Okay.
seconds.
Well, like I said, I don't want to, if I interpreted your site right, it said, keep to the agenda. What I'm talking about doesn't necessarily have to do with with anything that's on your agenda today, but it has to do with noise ordinance. I think it's common sense. You ought to have a 4-hour maximum of plain audible noise coming across a property line per week. I think there's just a lot of sense in that. Some people abuse that, and it'll wear you out. It'll wear you out. There's some issue in here on traffic, how to fix a traffic pattern in front of McDonald's. I've been hit there. I got my car totaled a while back, whatnot. Somebody pulled out, couldn't see. If you shift the lane early, all the way over, and if you look at the picture, it's a little bit more clear, and you run down, and then they take the sharper left, that would leave the line of sight open so it'd be a lot more safer, I think. Put a drain tile down the middle, it's just kind of one way of doing it. I'm not a civil engineer, but I think it'd probably be a better way to do it. Entry, exit, north side, Home Depot, Walmart. That circle right there is so congested. Chick-fil-A is wonderful, Walmart's wonderful. If you put one coming in, going out, there's a way to do it without a red light. I've seen it down Virginia Beach where you come out right into the middle. You had a left lane, northbound 17, and then you merge into traffic. And, easy peasy, supplies away getting in and out of there. It's very nice. Second Amendment, you can read about it. I'm saying that's a state issue, but anyway, it's all in here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great day.
You too.
Anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Ms. Cronin, we had no emails, no phone calls. Okay. So now we will move on to our work session agenda. The first item will be a recognition of Bonniville Elementary School's 2025 National Blue Ribbon status. Dr. Vladu.
Thank you, Mr. Chriscoe, Ms. Parker, members of both boards, and the public. Nothing makes us more happy than we see students there and teachers and staff and communities that are successful. So we would like to read a joint resolution, and I know we have a number of Bonniville staff and the principal. If you would come up here and get a little closer while we read this resolution for you, that would be outstanding. And we have a very little one. That's probably a future bulldog coming down there. I don't think she knows it yet.
Thank you, Dr. Vladu. So, Bonniville Elementary School 2025 National Blue Ribbon School. Whereas the National Blue Ribbon Schools program is a prestigious recognition awarded by the United States Department of Education to public and private elementary, middle, and high schools whose students achieve at very high levels or that demonstrate significant progress in closing achievement gaps. And whereas the National Blue Ribbon designation recognizes schools that exemplify exceptional teaching and learning, strong leadership, and commitment to academic excellence, and whereas the Bonniville Elementary School in Gloucester County, Virginia has been selected as a 2025 National Blue Ribbon School, an honor awarded to only a limited number of schools nationwide, and whereas the distinction reflects the dedication, professionalism, and hard work of the school's administrators, teachers, and staff, as well as the enthusiasm and perseverance of its students, and whereas the achievement also reflects the steadfast support of families, the Gloucester County School Board, Gloucester County Public Schools leadership, and the broader Gloucester community, and whereas Bonniville Elementary School's recognition as a National Blue Ribbon School highlights Gloucester County's commitment to educational excellence and serves as a point of pride for the entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors and the Gloucester County School Board do hereby commend and congratulate Bonniville Elementary School on being named a 2025 National Blue Ribbon School. Be it further resolved that the boards extend their sincere appreciation to the students, faculty, staff, administration, families, and community partners whose commitment and collaboration made this achievement possible. And because of this, Bonniville Bulldog staff will receive one free personal day to be used within the 365 days, and its students will enjoy an ice cream social celebration. Be it further resolved that the boards recognize this outstanding accomplishment as a testament to the strength of public education in Gloucester County and encourage the continued pursuit of excellence in teaching and learning. Signed, Ashley Chriscoe and Anita Parker.
Put me on the spot. Just this is such a group effort of our teachers, our staff, our parents, our families, community as a whole, school board recognition, as well as district level supervisors that have had such a tremendous impact for our teachers in terms of staff development, and also our board of supervisors for all the support given as well. So I just want to give a huge thank you and appreciation to each of you for the support that you guys have given Gloucester County Public Schools for many, many years that I've been, employed with Gloucester. It has been a joy to work with each one of you, and especially for my staff, that this is a huge huge recognition on their part and the hard work of our students and families. So thank you.
Next up, we'll have a recognition of Gloucester High School wrestlers Kenneth Hamilton and Carl Dean, Dr. Vladu, and Mr. Tony Nicosia.
Thank you. We love these things, so we want to turn it over to Mr. Nicosia for a recognition of our state champ.
There's not many times that you get to play dual role, so y'all going to have to bear with me for a minute. Congratulations to both of these fellas, but I'm going to talk about one, and then I'm going to let Dr. Vladu take care of the other one. But this gentleman right here, Kenneth Hamilton, walked into my class day one in August, and I said, Lord, what did you put me into? And Kenny and I struck up a pretty good relationship, and over the course of a semester, there's a couple of things that he taught me. You know, so many times in our profession, it's our job to teach. He taught me. And one of the things that he taught me was never give up. I have struggled a lot physically and had a lot of things going on that I don't talk about, but he unfortunately saw some of that. And one of the things that he taught me was never give up. And so one of the things that I told him during wrestling season, and as parents and as teachers and as board members, you know that's not an easy sport. And it's not an easy sport when you weigh too much, you don't weigh enough, you got to do this, we got to do that. And I would tell him the same thing that he told me. But the most impactful thing that Kenny did for me, and one of the things that I will never forget when he walks across the stage and goes on with life, is that when he took his state walk to go to the state championship, he stopped, he fist bumped me, he hugged me, and he thanked me for the time that I invested in him. And I told Dr. Vladu, going on a 8-hour bus trip, I said, this is my opportunity to say to you, Kenneth, thank you. Thank you for the impact you made on me. It's not always me making impacts on you as much as the impact you made on me. So on behalf of Gloucester County Public Schools, myself, and the Board of Supervisors, I would like to present you with the certificate for your accomplishment. And every time you look at this, I want you to remember how proud I am of you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicosia. And I do want to take a moment to recognize Carl Dean. I know Carl, Kenna has about 50 pounds on you. Right, and so again, you guys have supported one another, and you are fourth place in the state in 4A, which was an extremely competitive. We're talking about the largest high school in the state, so that is commendable to you. But I commend both of you for supporting one another and learning many of the life lessons which happen on the mat. Again, congratulations.
Okay, next up, we have a resolution of congratulations to the Gloucester High School's Lady Dukes field hockey team. Coach Doherty, come on down. They're going to come down anyway. All right. Well, before we start, since they're coming on down, please wave, ladies, when I call your name. Come out in front so we can get a picture. Nope, just wave them out when I say your name. Miss Haley Johnston? Keep Keep on coming. Keep on coming. Y'all come line up in front so everybody can see you. Addison Jeffrey, Riley Jeffrey, Ellery Miller, Peyton Sutton, Hannah Simons, Addie Zabicki, Ellie Adams, Danny Burgess, Lacey Carpenter, Emily Farrar, Charlotte Houts, Elu Mason, did I say that right? All right. Madeline Rowe, Skylar Cox, Ayla Fernandez, Aaliyah Maddox, Jenna Seaton, Addison Weimer, Kinley Hall, Riley Rondo, Amelia Santiago, Brooke Moore, JoJo Williams. Head coach, Joe Doherty, Mike Simons, assistant coach, Alexis Hare, assistant coach, and Carter Simons, manager. You get to hang out here for a second. We're going to do another picture in a second. Because there's a copy of this for each one of you all that I'm getting ready to read. So, resolution of congratulations to the Gloucester High School's Lady Dukes field hockey team. Whereas Gloucester High School's Lady Dukes field hockey team completed a successful 2025 season, advancing to the Class 4 Region Finals, and whereas after defeating the Grafton Clippers and securing the Class 4 Region A title, the Lady Dukes then defeated Powhatan and Chancellor to advance to the state finals. And whereas the Gloucester High School Lady Dukes then defeated Loudoun Valley in the finals round of November 15th, 2025 to claim the Class 4 state championship and ending their season with a 20-3 record. And whereas while this was the third state championship for the Lady Dukes field hockey program, this was the first state championship within Class 4. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors congratulates the Gloucester High School Lady Dukes field hockey team, their proud parents, and Coach Joe Doherty and his staff for their hard work and dedication, and commends them for their efforts throughout the season. Further be it resolved by the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the board and publicly presented to Coach Doherty and the members of the Gloucester High School Lady Dukes field hockey team in recognition of this accomplishment. Signed, Ashley Chriscoe, March 9th. Let's go. Go get your picture, and I'll hand you back to the resolution. Congratulations. Job well done. If you need to get closer, please come down.
Ladies, I want to congratulate y'all. I've watched a couple of your games. I'm a little impartial to the 2015 team. And I've got another parent here, two parents actually. I think they could have beat y'all.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
There are three extras. I'll give those to Dr. Vladu, and then y'all can do what you need to with them.
We do have one minor change, if it's okay with both boards. I know we had such an amazing introduction by Mr. Nicosia, very personal about what that meant, but we also like to read the resolution for our wrestling champions. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Scruggs to read the resolution. Oh, yes, I did.
Okay, we would like to honor and congratulate Kenneth Hamilton on winning the 2026, come down here, don't make me do this by myself, Virginia 4A 215-pound wrestling championship. Whereas Kenneth Hamilton of Gloucester High School has distinguished himself as a dedicated and talented athlete by winning the 2026 VHSL championship in wrestling. And whereas Kenneth demonstrated immense skill, perseverance, and determination throughout the season. And whereas Kenneth finished the season with an impressive record of 31-0, showcasing a high level of dedication and competitive spirit. And whereas the success of Kenneth is a testament to his hard work, the excellent coaching of Coach Parsons, Coach Russell, Coach Cameron, and Coach Kevin, the support of his teammates, family, and the community, and lifelong Coach Skay, who believed in him and helped him love the sport again. And whereas the Gloucester County School Board and Gloucester County Board of Supervisors finds it appropriate to celebrate Kenneth for his achievements and for serving as a positive example of the student athletes in Virginia. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gloucester County School Board and the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors hereby commend and congratulate Kenneth Hamilton for capturing the 2026 VHSL 4A 215-pound weight class championship in wrestling and for completing an extraordinary undefeated season. Be it further resolved that the boards recognize Kenneth's outstanding dedication, resilience, and sportsmanship, which have brought the honor and distinction to Gloucester High School and to the greater Gloucester community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Kenneth Hamilton as an expression of the community's pride in his remarkable achievement and best wishes for his continued success in future endeavors. And then, before I finish, I was asked to read this statement on behalf of the parents of Kenneth Hamilton, Carl Dean, and the Dukes Wrestling Club. We would like to begin by thanking Christy Hunter for all of her incredible support for the wrestling team. Your encouragement and dedication means so much to our athletes and program. We would also like to thank the school board for allowing us to continue this sport and for supporting our wrestling program. Your support gives our athletes the opportunity to compete, grow, and represent our school with pride. A special thank you goes to Ms. Croft for always taking care of our wrestlers and keeping them healthy throughout the season. Thank you for patching up all the bumps and bruises and always being there when our athletes need you. We would also like to thank Coach Mike and Coach Russell for their dedication to the entire team. The countless hours you spend coaching, encouraging, and pushing these wrestlers helps them become the best versions of themselves. Your guidance not only helps them grow as athletes, but also as individuals and spiritually. Finally, we want to thank the many other coaches who step up to help along the way. Our wrestlers would not be where they are today without the support, time, and effort from every single coach who has invested in them. Thank you all for being such an important part of our wrestling family.
Thank you, Dr. Vladu. Thank you, Ms. Scruggs. All right, moving on. Next, we have an appropriation of state grant funds from the Virginia Department of Education Mathematics Innovation Grant, as well as adjustment to school construction funds. Sorry, it's a mouthful. Thank you, Ms. Maria Calloway.
Yes, sir. We need to work on shortening those titles. Thank you. This evening I have a resolution which appears on page 14 of your board packet. This is for two items which are both school related. The first is a grant which the school board was notified on February 2nd of this year that they received $763,175 in grant funds for the Mathematics Innovation Grant. This does have a fairly tight turnaround to be spent, which is why it is appearing on this agenda. So that is to be used to purchase high-quality instructional materials. Certain that others may be able to elaborate if there are questions on that. And then secondly, we have been working over the last several months on narrowing down the estimates on the school construction fund as the high school really comes to a close. And so annually we do carryovers and we say we expect, we spent this much this year, here was the original project budget, and here's what we anticipate we'll need for the next year to stay within project budget. We do those early on, about this time of the year for the next year, and so we estimated a little high on that. And we also have been narrowing down exactly what spending we will need to do to finish up the project where it appears it's going to be coming in under budget. So what we'd like to do is reduce the school construction fund budget by $968,063 in order to reflect what we believe is actually going to be spent in the final project amount. So those two items offset each other for a net of decrease of $204,888 for this appropriation request, which is again on page 14 of your board packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? If we make the titles of these grants longer, do we get more money?
Yeah. I'll ask the state.
Okay. Any questions? I have a motion. Do I have a second? A motion, second. Any further discussion? Ms. Steele, would you poll the board?
Dr. Leming?
Yes.
Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Ms. Hanson? Mr. Bonniville?
Yes.
Dr. Orth? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we will have an update on the current capital improvement projects. Mr. Brian Hartley, Deputy Superintendent.
All right. Good evening, and thank you. Mr. Miller will serve as my backup. So I will introduce, and then we'll go over some phases of current projects, and then at the end, I will step in and cover the summary of our long-range capital plan. So with that, here is our summary. You heard Ms. Callaway talk about our renovation status. We have some electrical and fire alarm working on punch lists. Our exterior punch list items seem to be complete, and we are working on getting some engineer feedback and review as far as the large generator we have out back, which was a change order to support a sheltering change. So that's our goal, is to work towards making Gloucester High School, along with the county, a primary shelter for a number of reasons. But as far as that renovation work, we expect it to be done in 4 to 6 weeks. And that's really primarily stuff that Gresham's overseeing. We do have site work that we're working on. The weather's not allowed us to do but so much, but now as the weather starts to warm, we're hoping to get back to it. So really a maintenance effort on the west side of the building. And again, as soon as it warms up enough, we will start paving that. There's some pictures of that later in the presentation. And then we are working to get final site drawings and approval on the east side of the building, which will allow us hopefully to separate the bus loop and the student parking lot so we don't have people crossing in front of vehicles, especially large ones. And then we do have a new marquee that is in production, should be with us very soon and installed within a couple weeks after that. Another project we have going on is the Page roof. We found some workmanship issues along the way and some leaks, and we're about 97% done with that. And there were some pictures of that as well. We required some extensive work to get those repairs done. And then moving forward from last year's long-range capital was the approval of some HVAC projects. We really can't do that work when our buildings are occupied, so a majority of that work will happen this summer and over breaks, and then some next summer. So we have projects going on at Body Tide, Achilles, and Abingdon. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I will go over the long-range capital plan summary, and then we have one potential addition to that that kind of popped up because of winter weather this year. So with that, I'll advance and I will turn it over to Mr. Miller.
My apologies, Mr. Miller. Your name didn't appear, or else I'd have read it sooner.
That's all right. Just some electrical work going on at the high school, verifying circuits, making sure panel schedules are accurate, just general housekeeping issues. Coming along rather well. They're wrapping up fire panel work, just checking everything, make sure addresses are correct in the system. There's a picture of what's going on in the fire panel room at the high school as a new annunciator panel. There's our new generator. Like I said, we're working on adding circuits to support additional spaces for sheltering, and engineers are having differences of opinion, so we're trying to get that ironed out so we can get this change order done.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's probably a belly tank under that
Yes.
generator. What's the capacity on that tank?
7,800 gallons.
And if the generator were to be turned on, how long will that last?
3 days.
That's what I was about to say that.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Site work. Here's an overall view of the high school. Hopefully Thursday or Friday this week we'll get the rear service drive done. Weather just hasn't been cooperating with our pavement contractor. We're requiring 60-degree weather and haven't had much of that. This is a conceptual plan. Was rough sketched out by our contractor E.T. Gresham and made nice and pretty by Mr. Bryan's staff. Kim and May have been working on this. And this is the east side where you would turn by the brick sign. The buses would be relocated to the bright green area, and they would continue to come in the drive that they normally do. The students would continue to enter where they normally do and park behind that in the red striped out area, and that would eliminate kids and buses from being in the same space at the same time. So a lot safer situation. And then we would make a turn lane at the end for athletic events and drop off in that location. Any questions on that one? Has a little bit better view of what's happening at the rear of that parking lot as you enter the athletic complex. Just some pictures as the old driving range lot. It's going to be resurfaced as soon as weather allows. All the patching's been done, preliminary work. There's a new concrete apron that got poured in that same location. This is the back of the bus loop now, looking toward Short Lane. This is where the new entrance to the bus parking lot would be. We would do a curb cut right behind that pole, and that's where they would enter at that spot. Here's our rear service drive. And like I say, hopefully Thursday or Friday of this week, that'll be done. And we have fencing coming in to surround the auto shop and the construction lab, and that would be done right after the pavement's completed. And just another picture of that. The fence would start right at that corner, right by that 6W sign, and continue right on around and cover the back doors of the auto shop. Page roof. You can see they had to remove 3 courses of brick, replace through-wall flashing as part of that project. Flashing replaced, all the masonry reinstalled. Just another view of that. Some of the wall panels were removed, flashing repaired as well. Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Is this materials failure or workmanship?
Workmanship. Current HVAC projects. Here's just a generic shot of a HVAC unit. We're getting ready to replace that Achilles and body tot this summer. We had meetings today, went on the roof, verified a lot of different things, got our electrical contractor lined up, and they will start the week as soon as school gets out, and the following week they will actually remove the units and place new ones in place and then hook up from there. Any other questions about the slides?
Any other questions for Ms. Hanson?
You said that it was a workmanship issue, so is that a warranty type thing, or is the county paying for that?
No, it's funny, roofing at that school, the roofing was actually covered, but wall panels and wall flashings were not. It's typical with most roof warranties. So. Yeah.
Okay. If no other questions about current projects, I will move to the summary of our 27 through 2031 long-range capital plan, and then I will stop periodically to see if there are any questions. And as Mr. Miller alluded to, I don't think that roof work ever stops. There might be short pauses, but just as the number of roof systems that we have, constantly will need to be replaced. So you can see those are a little bit further down on the years as far as the capital projects, but Abingdon needs significant roof work. Achilles, Bethel, and of course here have roof issues that need to be replaced or at least worked on. And also here at TC Walker, this has been on the long-range capital plan for quite some time, but there's significant soffit and brickwork that needs to be addressed that you can see walking in or out of the auditorium. And then next, before I take a pause, is the fire system at Body Tot. It is currently functioning, but it does need to be replaced. So that's 3 projects. I'll see if there's any questions before we get into some of the other bigger ones.
Any questions of Mr. Hartley? Please continue, sir.
All right, thank you. And then HVAC, again, Body Tot's listed, Page, Petsworth, TC Walker. We use ASHRAE standards when we put these on the replacement cycle, and ASHRAE standards, really depending on the piece of equipment, are anywhere from 15 to 17 years. We try to push it a little bit longer, and we do have an excellent preventative maintenance contract with our HVAC companies, so they really help, but getting more than 20 years out of some systems is pushing it. We just don't quite get what we get out of some, and I will take note that we do have a couple pieces of equipment at Body Tot Elementary that are 1993, so I don't expect to get that kind of distance out of them moving forward, but we run them as long as we can run them and push them as far as we can push them before replacement. Next on our list is school bus replacement. It's really a program, and the standard set from the DOE is really 15 years or 200,000 miles. We have a significant portion of our buses that meet both those standards. I will take the note and be grateful that we are a whole lot better off than we used to be, and we're getting closer to having a full replacement cycle that kind of works for us, where we don't necessarily have to ask for 7 or 8 buses at a time. So a couple more replacement cycles will really help us get there. And those are really 2 expensive projects, so I'll stop it there and see if there's any questions.
Questions of either board? Ms. Hanson.
Mr. Hartley, as you're listed, the HVAC for Body Tot, Page, Petsworth, and TC Walker, and it says the need at 5, but I'm sure there are some that need more urgent care than others. So is it possible ever to separate those things and maybe compartmentalize each school as a need, like to let us know this one needs the roof sooner than the other one? Or is it you're saying that all of them need it now?
Well, it's a good question. We try to look at it when we prioritize them this way and put them out in fiscal years. So we put them later in the 5-year plan. So the ones that are closer to the current fiscal year, we're kind of saying are more in need than others on the other side. But we can certainly look at breaking out how we present multiple buildings with the same need.
Right. It would be helpful. Then we can sometimes you can take it by chunk, and then we're not looking at this big number and just see what the absolute need is. It would be easier for us to make that decision on what needs to be done.
Okay.
Anything else from Mr. Hartley before he moves on? Please continue. Are you done?
Casework, really looking at Achilles Elementary and Petsworth Elementary, probably our highest needs, but this is really just cabinetry that is beyond its expected life or useful life. So it starts to add up. This is another project that's been on our long-range capital for some time. The next is a fairly new project, our property identifier marquees. We have in our current proposed budget for transportation in Page Middle School, because we currently have no marquee at those buildings, but the remaining marquees either need significant work or replacement. Certainly we have to follow code depending on where those school buildings fall. And another project that's new to our long-range capital is gym floor refinishing that just got done in-house before, and as staff changes have occurred and decrease in certain areas, we've not been able to address it in-house, but primarily it's called grand wood. It's a wood that's used in a majority of our gyms that really needs to be stripped down and repolyed on a more frequent basis. And then asphalt sealant, you can see that we did not put a price on this, but several years ago it was an approved project through the capital process, and a majority of our buildings did get paving. Really not treated, not sealed in years before, and we got as much as 30 years out of some parking lots, and the recommendations about every 5 to 7 years to seal these asphalt surfaces, so we're coming up on that time. And I'll stop before I get to the major projects at the lower end of the summary.
Any other questions? Please continue.
Okay, you can see there's two hefty price tags. These are pretty large projects. I'll start with the high school sports complex. We were actually able to utilize some state construction dollars in previous years to address some of this, primarily the field house, the weight room, and do a significant amount of work there. So that actually got pulled off the project, but we still have a recommendation for a multi-use turf field. Track needs to be resurfacing. Our bleachers were installed in 1993, as well as our light poles. There will be a changeover for lights to LED, and really a significant inspection and addressing of the bleachers if there is a need. There's roofing needs for structures that are underneath our bleachers. This would also include some other areas, lighting for baseball and softball field, tennis courts, and things like that. So not just the stadium itself, the whole sports complex. And then the other project would be the renovation of the 1993 wing at Body Todd Elementary School. And really the primary components that would be the focus, there would be more work than that, but would be the ADA issues that we have with student and staff restrooms, and then the safety and security. When this was constructed, I think the design and architecture at the time was to have these exterior doors that can potentially be problematic from a safety standpoint. So new windows, new doors, new paint, new lights, new ceiling, stuff like that.
Dr. Leming?
Ms. Callaway, did we talk about the Body Tot renovation and the fire renovation as sort of one item? And I think, do I remember a number like 8.4 some odd million was the, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, just doing it from my memory.
Yes, it is 8.1 for the renovation and 250 for the,
So the total
so about
was
8.4.
8.4.
Yep.
And do I have some memory that there may be sufficient funds in the 1.5 cent tax that's devoted to school construction to cover that cost?
The renovation may be covered with that. The fire suppression system, based on Mr. Wilmot's recommendation, should not be funded with that school sales tax.
Do the schools know that that money is there?
That the school sales tax funding is there. I have not specifically said that it could be, I think the presumption is that it will be funded with school sales tax, whether it be debt or cash.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Any further questions? Mr. Hartley, any further comments?
I don't think so. I'm sorry, I did miss one thing that I told you I would cover. So if I may go back and revisit this. Please. This is a picture of the roof system at Page Middle School. It is a metal roof system. In the time that that building's been open, we have not experienced a storm or a winter storm quite like we did at the end of January that was primarily an ice event because it snowed and then it rained, then it sleeted, then it rained, and we had about 2.5 inches of ice on our buildings that just slowly crept down these metal roof systems and broke off in anywhere from 12 to 24-inch pieces that were a safety concern, to the point where we really had to reroute our buses, we didn't have to reroute Parent Loop, but we just had to make it work to the front of the building because we couldn't bring people in and out. So we did get a price, which I believe is on the previous slide. No, I think it was on the first slide, but a little bit less than $50,000 to do roof clips, if that's something that we were to address. Again, I don't know that we've experienced this to a great extent prior to this year, but if we did the red and the yellow areas that are highlighted, it would be a little bit less than $50,000. If we went and addressed some of these other areas that have sidewalks coming up to them, you can see where the roofs slope it down towards them. In that area highlighted in green, it would probably push the price a little bit over 50. And we do have some metal roofing at other buildings that's just not as great of area coverage, that cleared up a little bit quicker, so we could also consider that.
And your total was 43,328.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It was on the first slide, I think.
Correct. I didn't want to make you have to go back that far.
Okay. I appreciate it. All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Hartley?
Mr. Chairman?
Dr. Leming?
Not a part of your presentation, just a question.
Okay.
Has there been consideration about putting solar panels on the flat roofs on the buildings that we have?
So the short answer is yes. Largely now, in not all buildings, but right now, most of our buildings have rooftop units that consume a lot of space. We have gas lines for startup heat and things like that. So it might be more of a challenge to put solar panels on our roofs. We've also have explored some opportunities where they have solar panels that kind of get installed on carports, so parking areas and things like that. Largely, companies that want to do that want a large amount of space to do it, and not a smaller amount of space. So we have explored it. We've looked into it. It seems like it would be easier to do the carport style with the solar panels than to put on the rooftops with the amount of equipment that we have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dr. Leming.
I can't speak for Dominion because I don't work for them, but I know that Dominion is actively looking for square footage, let me put it that way, to use to generate solar power. And I believe the arrangements are before the meter, I think that's correct, such that it would reduce the utility cost to the school district in kind by the amount of solar produced, or they're leasing the space and they're just getting all the production.
Yeah, I think, and I know Mr. Miller was part of the discussion too. I think the setup, the model that we had, the energy would go back to storage facility and we'd get a credit for it to reduce. So it wasn't actually going into our buildings, but 6-1, 1/2 dozen other really. But there was some reduction in cost. But in order to get a significant reduction in that utility cost for us, the amount of solar panels they were suggesting that we'd have to install at a place like Gloucester High School, they wanted all the parking covered, driving range covered, things like that. But we could certainly go back and revisit it. It's a topic that's come up again recently.
Yeah, I just know we had a conversation late this afternoon about energy costs going up, and I'm sure the school's energy costs are soaring as well.
Yes, sir. We are certainly concerned about some proposals, and we know we have a significant portion of our budget that, to the tune of about $100,000 a month just for electricity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Hartley.
All right,
we appreciate
thank
it. Moving along, we will now have a presentation of the school board's proposed FY 2027 budget and FY 2027 to 2031 capital improvement plan. Dr. Vladu.
Mr. Chriscoe, Ms. Parker, members of both boards, I know we had the viewing public and everyone else that is interested in this very important topic. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this budget. But before I start, I want to thank Ms. Woodruff because her and her staff have been working, I would say day and night. I know she's there late into the evening. I get some emails on the weekend and collaborating with her counterparts of the county to bring you a needs-based budget. So I want to thank her for her work, and I believe her 28 years of experience in both county and school finance have come in handy. Again, she's been on the jobs, I believe, since the 4th. And again, thank you, Ms. Woodruff, to you and your staff for doing that. So let's begin. Before we get started with the numbers, I do want to change hats a little bit. I'm going to play cheerleaders for a little bit. I don't teach a class. So the credit that I'm about to share belongs to the students, the parents, to our teachers, to every special educator who tries to close gap, to our Algebra 1 teachers, and so on and so forth, to our bus drivers, to our paraeducators, school psychologists. I could go on. We have 800 employees that work day and night to make sure that it's every child, every day. And again, in the world of public education, we can make a million excuses. That probably works in the world of adults, but it doesn't work in the world of kids who need a solid education. So I don't say that lightly. So I'm going to spend probably about 5 to 7 minutes just highlighting the work because it's important as you consider this budget. So we're thinking about the process. We have started back before Ms. Woodruff got on board, and we asked every department and every principal, what are your needs? We had several sessions, and we were there. And sometimes the public came, but most of the time we were there, ready to present. We are open to any and all feedback. We had communication on radio, social media. I think the Gazette is here, numerous press releases to make sure that everybody in this community has the opportunity to weigh in. And something we wanted to start this year, and I know with the election and several members on board, counterpart meetings. I think it's important that our elected officials talk about these things, and I thank you for doing that. That's extremely important. In all, if you were to count, we had 20-plus budget engagement activities. So let's talk a little about effective schools. And I know when we think about the lifeblood of any community are its children. And public education, we had the opportunity to celebrate a blue ribbon school. Again, I don't teach a class, and I don't believe any of the staff here teach, but our job is to support them, and I want to thank you for your financial support, your commitment to public education here. But here's some characteristics of effective schools. Leadership is important. That's why all of us are in our positions. A clear and focused mission. High expectation, not for some children, for all children. Progress monitoring. We spend the entire day with principals today. Talk about predictive analytics. Where we were last year, where are we right now, and where do we need to get? And that was about 6 hours worth of work with our leaders to make sure that they provide the clarity and ensure that when teachers are already overwhelmed, and what we want to make sure that the time that we do have is spent on high leverage, high impact activities. Supported learning environments, we want to make sure every student feels like they belong because they do. And efficient and effective use of resources. And this is what we're doing here tonight, effective governance. So those are the characteristics. Blue ribbons don't happen overnight. It's the highest achievement any schools can achieve, and can get. But here's the other thing you didn't hear tonight. All of our elementary schools were within 1.5 or 1.7 points of one another, between 84 and 86 on the new school performance and accountability framework. What does that tell you? What you saw from Bonniville, you can expect at Achilles, Abingdon, Petsworth, Bonniville, and Bethel. So the quality of the schools are very, very high. So what are some of our achievements? Again, I want to highlight, and I'm very, very proud of this, 2nd and 5th grade math in the state. We're talking about 131 school districts, 2nd and 5th grade math. I'll hit some of those other areas. 8th in overall math. And think about Gloucester and what we're able to achieve with the resources that you give us. Disadvantaged students, these are students that are live in poverty, the same students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. And I know I'm jumping around, but it's here for public record. I could not be more proud because if you look at that map, that's a lot of competition. I love our kids. We love all kids, but we like our kids and our teachers just a little bit more. So what does that yield? It yields results. And our public needs to know. Gloucester County Public Schools are #1 district in Region 3. So that is from here, from the bridge, all the way past Stafford. And that's extremely important because people move to this community because of the schools. I know I have 2 girls, and when I was shopping around for a house, I shopped around for the top school district. And if you're a realtor in Gloucester right now, this is something probably that you need to talk about. If you're selling a house in Gloucester right now, this is something that you probably need to talk about. Here's another way of looking at Region 2 and Region 3. So think about all the way from Carolina past Stafford. I mean, probably you could go all the way coastal Virginia. We're #3. Those people have a lot more money, but we get amazing results. And what you see in the center of that pyramid are the rankings in the state. So now to some numbers. Reading is going up. Writing is going up. Math is going up. And science is going up. The reason you don't see history and social studies, because we do a lot of performance-based assessments. Students are writing, and we have a process where they get evaluated on their writing to do those assessments. And that's really helped us actually maximize that, the opportunity for students to write. Again, I couldn't be more proud of our staff. So outcomes. 96.2 on-time graduation, and students with disabilities, 98%. That's because we staff our schools, and we pay our teachers competitive wages, and we continue to pay them health insurance. And we ensure that we're committed to class sizes that are reasonable. So what does that look like over a period of time? I know I'm new to Gloucester. I lived in another county, which I won't say, and crossed the bridge, but this, for folks that have been in Gloucester since 2008, this is what it looks like. I know we have how we felt versus what the results are. These are outcomes that our graduation coaches and K-12 has able to deliver over a period of time. And there's the state. You see the state is relatively flat and Gloucester has gone up. So thinking about your neighbors, your friends who have kids who have graduated or last year, here's what the graduation plans are, because that's important as we think about budgets and the programs. So on this slide, the state is represented in blue and Gloucester County is represented in green. We have, the state has 3.2% that go into the military. We have 6.9. That speaks to the service of this county. Employment, straight to work. That's a great option. Particularly if you don't have something in mind, save your parents a lot of money and get a good paying job. At the state level, 14.7 out of that graduating class, 30% for us. So that's twice the percentage of students that go to work in Gloucester than it is at the rest of the state. Other plans, you see those numbers, 4-year, half, almost half, 48. In the state, 23 that go. And 2-year colleges will probably include some technical school. Why is that important? Because career and technical education and workplace readiness and workforce development is critical to the health of this district and this community. Well, here's a number, right? It all comes down to numbers. The way schools are funded in Virginia is per pupil. And what you see that since 2016 and beyond that, you have a decline in the number of students enrolled in public schools, and I do want to take a few moments to explain that to you. So these projections come from VDOE as well as the Cooper Center, and we're expected to continue to gradually decrease since at least FY29. Again, these are projections, and I'll talk about the fail-safe measures that ensures that we received our maximum funding. So 4454, if you like Chevys, 454 is an easy way to remember that. I hope our mechanics out there know what I meant by that. But this is happening across the state because folks might be saying, what is happening in Gloucester? Well, look at that chart. folks are having fewer kids. So overall, at the state level, the number of public school students is going down. So that also affects state funding. So homeschooling is something that I brought before both boards. I've been before you, and I talked about the homeschooling phenomena. And I also want to make sure that we understand our context. So I rank ordered them based on the Virginia Department of Education percentage of school-age population, which is available at the Cooper Center, of all of the students that are school-age versus all the students enrolled in public schools. So Gloucester County is not the highest, but we're also not the lowest. The trends have been more and more students have gone to homeschooling, but we seem to stabilize. But that's also recognizing a national, state, regional, and local trend. So again, Gloucester County Public School is not unique, but we have to maintain our standing and attract as many students, because the best place to educate folks for the workforce, it's in our programs here in Gloucester County Public Schools.
Got a quick question.
Yes.
So, given the way the population is trending, and given the way the current composite index is formulated, is there any discussion on actually changing the formula for the composite index that would take into account all these different things? Because I think that equation is quite complicated and maybe needs to be looked at. Has anyone really brought that issue up?
Absolutely. You bring up a great point. So the JLARC study made exactly that recommendation. The way we're funded is through the SOQ and per pupil. That formula is not adequate because it doesn't take into consideration numerous factors. I think there's a JLARC study that I'd like to provide perhaps to both boards, but exactly, they're recommending exactly what you said. So you saw this chart before. This is total, includes both religious exemptions as well as, homeschooling in general. Religious exemptions can stay steady. They represent about 25% of the total number there. So why is this happening in Gloucester? Well, there are two tests. If you like data, here it is. The real test, if you go to Walmart, you're likely to meet people like us than people that are having kids and walking them hand in hand, right? Or you could do the Tractor Supply test, whatever test it is. So there are a lot more folks in Gloucester that are at the top of the pyramid than probably at the state level. So what does that mean? If you're looking at that population pyramid, and that source of that is the 2024 census. Our parents are anywhere between, let's say, 25 to, maybe 54. So look at that band. A lot of our citizens are actually anywhere between, 50 to 75. That makes up a tremendous amount of this county. So that means they probably have grandchildren in school, but not children. And also, if you're interested in population statistic, you look at fertility rates, we're lower than the state and lower than the region. And so, and birth rates is what I meant to say by that. So again, just because people are moving to Gloucester, it does not mean that there are 35 years old with 3 children. They may be more like me, folks that raise children on the peninsula or in the military somewhere that are me moving here. Why is that important? Because it's really hard to predict school-age children and enrollment. So I know this is fresh off the chart because some of the enrollment may come from some of the projects that you discussed at the Planning Commission and at your meetings. So this information is agreed by both of our organizations between the Planning Commission that some of these projects coming online may generate us additional students. So you're thinking about approximately 88 students, if somebody can add that we can't get, but again, they're not guaranteed. So what does that mean for us? When we lose enrollment, we also have to look at staffing. But it's not an easy formula. So using this chart, when you're looking at 2019 staffing levels, FY20, 2019, 2020, if that is our staffing goal, proportion, the orange line represents proportional adjustments in staffing. However, it's not always possible to do that. Let me give you an example. We have, including kindergarten, we have 13 grades. Let's say we're losing 130 kids, 10 per grade level. In first grade, 10 students spread across 5 elementary schools. That's 2 at each school. Now, there are 3 classes of first grade at some schools. In some schools, there may be 4. So you're talking about less than 1 student. So it's sometimes reductions in staff are not possible nor appropriate. But our staff are going to look and have looked at, if we have high school classes with 6 kids, that is not efficient. We need to look at combining. We have other options. We have virtual options. So we are looking at every single area that we could be efficient without compromising the integrity of our instructional program. But we have, last year, our adjustment was 19. This year could be anywhere between 7 and 12, but as to attrition only. I know we have staff looking at these meetings. We're only looking at attrition. Each year we have approximately 35, give or take, folks that retire or take jobs somewhere else. So again, we are going to be looking at some efficiencies. Why are efficiency important? Because the quality of the district is dependent on the work of the staff. And as staff are watching this, and we have to, again, make business-based decisions. When I say business, in the best interest of kids, that's what I mean by business and financial efficiency. Here's a comparison from the annual school report card. So Gloucester County Public School is in green. Total instructional positions per 1,000 students is in the second column from the right. We have 105 per 1,000 students, and we rank 15 in the state. There are districts, I won't name them, but they're here, that have 144, but they're 105th in the state. And I'm only looking at districts between 6,000 and I want to say 4,000 on here. But then you have other districts at the bottom of this chart that are significantly understaffed. I would want to say they're probably understaffed because it's hard to staff some of these districts. So what am I saying? This is the sweet spot. We can't cut too much because the effectiveness of these programs is essentially important. And this kind of gives you some data and quantifying where we are relative, because folks may say, in this district, we're better staff. In that district, we're better staff. We have more teachers in district. In that district, it's important that we actually explain that and provide the rationale. So if you look at this chart, you see by the bottom scaled academic rank. All to the left, the closer you are to 0 or to 1, that means you're first in the state. So in those districts that are 4,000 to 6,000, Gloucester County Public School is 3rd. And the staffing level is right here. So I believe that we're in the sweet spot. We have to maintain our ratios. I want to also talk about the question you asked about how we staff and fund public schools. Standards of quality are the unstandards of quality. And they've been criticized by both Republicans, Democrats, and independents. According to that funding formula, we would have to run this district with 483 staff members. We need 800. 88 support positions. 88 support positions. That's not enough. That barely covers our bus drivers and transportation, let alone maintenance, facilities, those kind of things. So that costs money. To your point earlier, the local composite index is critical. So there are 2 factors that affect our budget this year, 2 factors. One, lower number of students, lower ADM, and then a higher LCI. What this means is as the state is looking at our economy, as that goes up, the LCI, so does the state, the locality's ability to pay. So out of every dollar, let's say you got $1 in the pocket right now, the locality can afford to pay 40 cents, and the state is picking up 60 cents. Well, that's not even a percentage point, but let me put that in numbers for you. That's almost $400,000 just on that, considering the same number of students, right? So we also have to look at the the number of students or the ADM. So again, a 1% can equal to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's another way, as you talk to your colleagues and at the state level among each other as far as advocating for additional resources for public schools, two line graphs to consider. Blue is the actual money, the buying power when it's not adjusted for inflation. We have gradually provided more funding per pupil, but when you adjust it for inflation, that is the orange line. So even though we're getting, again, $10,000 of state funding, give or take, that buying power is not quite that high. It's more like $5,287 as compared to FY12 or 11-12. I know you're waiting to look at this slide in terms of GCPS per pupil funding. So in 26, the per pupil local share is 4,790, represented by dark blue. The green represents per pupil county shares, 6,653. The state share is represented by the gray. And then we're looking at the total when you combine those two numbers is represented by the blue. So that gives you a little bit of proportion. What does this mean? You are funding us more than is required, and we're grateful. We're grateful for our SROs. We're grateful for school security staff. We're grateful for our community engagement coordinators, which are helping our schools. We're grateful for everything that you do for us because that equates to safer schools and a better education system. If you're interested in doing additional research on instructional position, how much do we spend instructionally? Here's a VP-AP has this report. You could click by county. It's linked on here. I know it would exceed the time we have tonight, but if you love data and if you love numbers, and if you want to say, well, is Gloucester County paying more than other districts or less than other districts? This is it. So this is available for public consumption. Now, this is to funding our schools, and there are three line graphs I want to share historically since 17. The red represents federal funding. You saw a bump from 21 to 24. The ESSER funding was great. It was absolutely great. We're able to get additional positions, additional things, but that money's gone. It's dry. The blue represents the local share. And then the state is represented by the green. So as you can see, the enrollment is affecting the amount we get from the state. If enrollment was the same, you would have seen that line go up or at least stay steady. So I want to also show you historically what's been funded locally here. So if you take a moment and look at that. Since 23-24, we've been level funded, and we're making things work. However, just the cost of business is sometimes higher. We still have the same number of buildings. We still need electricity. We still have to heat them. Buses on the road, all of that. And you're looking at inflation. So those are the budget challenges that when we're level funded, the world around us does cost more money. And so that's certainly a challenge. Now I want to go into specifics in regards to our budget. And these are, again, summarized for you, and we could have a discussion at any point. So I know last year we talked a little bit about Chromebook replacement. If you're a 5-year replacement cycle, 393, 960. Another way to think about these Chromebooks, for better or worse, they sort of replace instructional materials such as textbooks. I'm not saying it's a direct replacement, but our teachers go and find resources, articles, research, assessment. So they are using these in the classroom, and we know that the public may feel we're spending too much time on the computers. Well, we try to limit that. However, I got to tell you, if you're working in the real world, you're probably using a computer. It's just how you use it. So we are requesting that amount. Program of studies, we have a couple of courses that we want to look at. We're going to pay less for New Horizons this year because our enrollment in New Horizons is down. Special education in the Middle Peninsula, we expect an increase of $187,369. We are looking to find sort of an offset position offset for a CTE coordinator. As you saw that we have a great number of students going straight to the workplace. We need to continue to shore up our instructional and workforce development programs. CTE testing of equipment, $60,000. And I did skip one, increased CTE instructor days, contract days. If you're thinking about construction and automotive, cosmetology, nursing, or medical, these are not just classrooms. These are programs that require inventory, require setup, and requires additional time during the year. Teacher coach position, most of our hires come from our substitute pool and our pair educators. So if you want to go to a college and say, I want to go to Longwood and I want to recruit, or I want to go to William & Mary, or I want to recruit, they're not there. The return on our investment is not there. So we have done a great job by staffing from within, and it has really paid off. But that requires somebody actually to train the teachers, to catch up with them, to check on them, to mentor them. That was basically our internal program of supporting these folks. And then staff development and training, travel fees, those kind of things. So in Goal 1, instruction and academic achievement, we're proposing $764,188. Today, we actually met with the volleyball team at Page. We wanted to get into that budget at the macro level. You know, what I discovered is we have a great community that want to support sports. But the fundamentals of a sport, like the supplements and the equipment, that should be the district's responsibility. If we want a second or third uniform, maybe parents can raise that money. But the basics for that sport, and so it was a great and informative meeting, and it really allowed us to know at the macro level what it takes to bring on a sport. Next year, we want to bring up Peasley, but these were done in the middle of the year, so we're proposing $22,284. We also have to anticipate that sometimes things just cost more the next year, so the budget includes that. Middle school cross country, $8,280, and we have a gap, and maybe thinking about our own kids. Let me just talk about my kids. That's safe. They are worse communicators when they were in high school than they were in elementary. At the elementary, they came home and they talked to us. Middle school, I said, Dad, don't come to school anymore. Just drop the lunch off at the front desk. High school, I have to drag things out of them. So I think there's this thing where we have great communication at the elementary and the middle to our community engagement coordinators, but teenagers are not good communicators. And so there is a gap there that is becoming more and more evident, and that is that proposal for community engagement coordinator. Goal 3, efficiency of operation, fiscal responsibility, transportation, and human resources. There's a 3% increase on the Senate side. And we'll see what the governor is going to do with that. The cost of that is $1,684,994. I talked about supplements earlier, maybe not directly. We have not upgraded our coaching supplements. I think it's not just coaching, but if you're doing Model UN or you're doing Odyssey of the Mind, those have stayed steady. So we're proposing a 10% increase. The cost of that is $36,168. Health insurance, 15% increase there from US side, 1.242. And the signage at Page and transportation. So those are new facilities, new, right? Page was what, 2014? But we're still missing signs for them. And then the transportation, I want to say, was 2023 in this May. And I'm sure Mr. Hartley is going to check those numbers for me. Mowers, right? I think you're thinking about those pull behinds. There's some technology changes. Apparently, they have these diesel wide area mowers that go like 12 feet wide, and you could whip them around and cut staffing time. Well, one of those mowers got $70,000. We need to continue to invest in those. We have new floors at the high school. We need buffers, scrubbers, those kind of things, $42,000. Transportation parts, $104,788. Don't believe me? Let's go to CarQuest, or that's out of business, so I'm glad that I used that since I don't want to create competition there. And then utilities. We had a conversation about utilities. You know you're paying more at your homes. We use the same electricity, so that is expected to go up significantly. So that's between utilities and other maintenance needs, $595, $886. Grant writer position, 88, 159. We believe that this is going to be a 10-to-1 decision, that for every dollar we invest in that we're going to get so much back. We have DODEA grants, we have CTE grants. You approved tonight the math materials. That grant was over $750,000. That was written by one of our individuals who's retiring. And so that was again, we had to apply and we got it. And this position can go and look for more grants, which when we come here next year, we will say to you, wow, what a great investment. And we can learn from other districts because that pays out. But we have to have a placeholder because people have to get paid and they need health insurance. So the total of that is $3,908,051. If you take a moment to look at this, if you like working on cars, great. If you don't, then you go to the dealer and you pay top dollar. And so I'll hit some of them. Brake shoes, our buses stop every, I don't know, it's not that far. You see in front of you, if you're ever stuck in traffic behind a bus, you're rushing to work at 8 a.m., you know they have a lot of stops. Door motors, those doors open a lot, they get replaced, 58%. That increase, that's since the last purchase. We're not talking about, 3 years ago, last purchase. Antifreeze, 50% increase in there. International bus, cross-arm motors, those wear out too, double. It's just going up. And you need these parts. And even when you shop around, they just cost more. And we have to maintain our buses and make them last. And that includes changing parts when they're needed. And we have a phenomenal department who does a good job there. Moving on to safe, secure schools and transportation, a safety alert notification system. I want to talk a little bit about school safety because before instruction, our number one priority is to keep things safe. Everybody in this district, we know that's important. We would love to live in a world when we think that, hey, teaching and learning, safety is number one. You cannot focus on learning math if you don't feel safe. Time matters. You saw it nationally. When something happens, seconds count. And so to have a notification system, it's approximately 2 minutes when a staff member picks this up and calls 911 and a conversation. 911, what is your emergency? Oh, that's about 5 seconds. How can I help you? That's more seconds. Well, it adds up to about 2 minutes. So what other districts are doing, they're doing wearables. 7 clicks, they're there in that classroom with a location, with GPS, at the ready, move toward the target. And so we want to, again, continue to invest in security, and that is just to get our foot in the door. And I think I have a mandate from our public to make sure that we keep the kids safe. And then the second, school security and weapon detection enhancement. We invested in weapon detection at the gates. However, we can't get complacent. We have to have some active measures. Great Wall of China was built there, still there. Did it keep people safer? I'm not sure. So we have to make sure we vary our levels of weapon detection. So this is an active measure, working with the Sheriff's Department with the weapons detection dog. We know fireworks and pyrotechnics and all kinds of stuff in the parking lot, right? They go around and move from school to school, ensure that our students are safe. And we believe that's an extremely modest price or cost for what we're getting. Lastly, mental health and wellness. We want to continue to invest in that. Care Solace puts you in touch with a counselor local, and it's a phenomenal resource. We review utilization every month. It's being used, and it's being used a lot, and our families are grateful for it. It's for students, it's for their parents, it's for staff. It really addresses the mental health challenges that we have. In all, by goal, here's a summary. But I do want to look at where's this money coming from. So we do have a decrease in state funding, 688,104. However, we plan on saving 851 by making necessary adjustments to staffing models. That's 851,370. And we're grateful to the state that we have a lower contribution to VRS, which saves us almost $1 million. So additional resources for allocation before we come to you is $1,152,029. So what does the summary look like? Based on what I share across those 5 goals, new expenditures, not counting the slide I share, 4.883. However, this puts us at a gap of 3.7, 31433. So the operating fund, you look at the state number in top line, local contribution, the request that we're making and the gap. And we also have federal funding there that's a placeholder for a total of an increase of 4.11%. I know grants are something that we can count on, and they're really, really helpful. We will we expect a security officer grant, 225, security equipment grant, 150. Virginia Tier System of Support is the educational triage of the medical system. You get a student in, and where are they? Do we have to start from scratch? Are you an EL from Romania who doesn't know English? Well, we got to do triage. Are you somebody that knows how to read in kindergarten? That's less. So the VTSS is extremely supportive. That's our triage system. And other state grants, 200 expected. Total state grants, 593. Title I, Reading Recovery, 860, 166. Title II, Professional Development, 161, 143. Title IV and 4B, Special Education, 63, 157, and 1.338 for 4B. I'm sorry, for 6B. I do know my Roman numerals, I promise. I learned them very well in school. Carl Perkins, CTE, 87, 514, and other federal grants we expect to get 295. Total federal grants, 2.805 million, 504. So those are the total grants at the bottom if you add all those numbers up, and we count on them. We appreciate the Department of Education and the federal department for continuing to fund us, as well as the state grants. Central Food Service, no major changes, less students. We have fewer, smaller numbers. Federal revenue, 2.2. Local revenue, 900,000. State revenue, 97. And the 450 is what you provided last year. We're extremely grateful. I commend our food service department for being good stewards of the resources. And as far as I know it, we did not need to dip into those funds. Total revenue, 3.689. I do have to say this, they're extremely helpful, and here's why. If a oven goes down, or an ice machine, or you name it, the dough mixer, it has to come from that. And you don't really have an option because you got to serve food tomorrow. And so that money is extremely helpful in should we have any emergencies that need to be fixed in food service. That's been extremely helpful to provide a layer of security, plus probably a lot of stress. Lydia's not here tonight, but I think she had a lot of stress last year that she would have had otherwise. So total expenditures, you're looking at 3.6122. So local school board recommended budget FY27. Here's the summary. If you want to look at all of it, over last year, 2.89%. That's a good number to look at. Thinking about how much more is it going to take our schools to operate next year, 2.89%. If you're thinking about inflation and the cost of everything else, we believe these are reasonable requests. So state budget updates, I know they were supposed to meet this past weekend. They did not have a product. They did not have an outcome. And so it goes on. We hope that the General Assembly convenes and and gives us a budget that closes that gap. The closer they get, that's more helpful for both of our boards because, again, the lower contributions are extremely helpful for our community. We recognize there are competing needs across all of our county, and we're very sensitive to that. This is our timeline, and this is what it's all about. These young men and young women going out there and being successful and coming back or staying in our community and earning a living and paying taxes. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Vladu. Questions from board members? Dr. Leming?
Dr. Vladu, I have three questions for you. My first question relates to capacity. You know, at the Planning Commission level, I believe there is a sense, and it's my observation that there is a sense that there is no capacity in the Gloucester County Public Schools to take on new students. Would you speak to that for me for a moment, please?
Well, there's perception, there's history, there are conversations in the community. I mean, when I came here, Dr. Lemmy, people wanted another high school. And I'm telling them, that school was 2,100. Right now, we're 1,480. So the conversations in our community are not always based in data and facts. They're based in perceptions, history. I think at some point we just don't listen to one another. So I would recommend that we look at data. There is plenty of capacity. If anything, those numbers tonight show you that student enrollment creates some of these gaps. And so we welcome people into our schools, and anything I can do to convince folks that we need our students. Homeschool, please consider come back. If you move into the county, enroll with us. But I don't believe those conversations are based in fact. I believe they're based in history and perception.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Follow-up. I appreciated the illustration of perhaps there's 10 students less in the first grade. And if you divide those students out over the various schools, it's 2 students per school, your example. Is there a need for redistricting?
That's a great question. I don't see that need right now. We're not at the point where we look at consolidating and not at the point where we need to look at redistricting. There is capacity at all of our schools. So I would say before we look at the redistricting, it's extremely controversial and it divides families. I mean, anybody live across the street from somebody, you go into one school and they're going to another school. We have capacity at all of our schools.
Mr. Chairman, follow-up. Yep. I'm going to call it the ability to pay index. I know it's called the local composite index, but in my simple brain, it's the ability to pay index. And I'm going to ask a question that's almost insulting, and I don't mean it to be insulting, but has the schools calculated the ability to pay index for ourselves, and does that match up with what the state has?
We have not. We rely on the Cooper Center and VDOE to give us that figure.
Are you aware of any circumstances in the past where localities have independently calculated their ability to pay and it's been substantially different than that provided by that entity?
I'm not aware of any specific examples, but I'm willing to learn. If we know of any, I will contact the superintendents and the local government, and I will learn as much as possible.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I saw and I'm sorry, I'm not
Nope,
familiar
you're fine.
with this. I'm on page 28 for a brief moment. The Community Engagement Coordinator position for $88,000. Is that an additional community engagement person?
It is an additional FTE, so we have one per school, and then we're split 50/50, 0.5 middle school, and 0. So that is one additional FTE, and it includes benefits.
Mr. Chairman, during my my brilliant principal for a day, which was still an eye-opening and wonderful experience, by the way, I will just have to say that. A credit to Melissa and her staff. Melissa, who worked for Trish for 5 years. Anyway, I met the community engagement coordinator at Petsworth Elementary School, and she had this blue ribbon around her neck, which was a Gloucester County employee ribbon. I don't understand why this position is here. I thought the community engagement coordinators were county employees embedded in the schools.
That is a great observation. So those are county employees. I think we're talking about Molly, who is phenomenal. They report to Quentin Shepard, so they are county employees. However, the high school, we would have to work through that. Our proposal is to the school board budget, but if the board of supervisors would love to staff us independently, we would be forever grateful. However, we did put it into our own budget.
It just struck me that we're having the same people with disparate employers. It just struck me as odd. Anyway.
It's extremely odd, and it's not an ideal situation.
Okay.
Follow. Can I just add one thing to that? We talked a lot about that internally as a board. The key message we want to get across is that the Gloucester High School does not have a community engagement coordinator. It needs one. How it gets there is up to y'all to decide. We'd be happy if it was ours. We'd be just as happy if it was a county employee. We wanted to account for all angles and just stick it in our budget as well.
I think the point I really had 2 points. One of the points was this is not a supervisory position over the other in community. Not everybody in the room knows that, and not all the public know that. But this would be a community engagement coordinator similar to that at Petsworth, only it would now be that person at the high school, where today there exists none.
Yes, sir.
I got it?
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you. Follow up on page 29. On the bottom of that page, there's a grant writer position. I've had this conversation in a previous locality where I served, and the board split the grant writer's position with the school board. Is there any appetite to do that, or do you think that your work would consume? I'm asking how to best use that position to its fullest capacity.
I think anytime
The schools need 100% of that person?
we want to move in that direction, ideally we are asking for 1.0. However, if we could collaborate and work on getting funding for our schools and meet both needs, I think that's a great conversation that both boards can have. I would certainly be open for that discussion.
Last follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This is sort of a philosophical conversation, and I don't know exactly how to have it, but what is the school board's policy on FMRR, facilities, maintenance, reserves, and replacement funds?
I can't speak to the school board policy, but I'll speak to some discussions that we're having. So this is FMRR. Since this topic came up, we did a little bit of research. Apparently it was a big thing years ago. And there were regular meetings, there were discussions. And so I can't tell you when we got away from that practice, but doing some historical research with the district, that there was a FMRR process and there were FMRR requests, but that precedes my time. I would have to do more research and give you a precise answer.
Well, I think I can only speak for myself. I cannot speak for the full board. I think on our side of the coin, we have some ongoing discussions within ourselves about what's FMR&R versus capital expenditures. Mm-hmm. But it becomes pretty clear at some point that the absence of funding one's depreciation creates crisis management.
Madam Chair, that's the most refreshing comment I've heard in any joint meeting of all time. Thank you for that. So I can, as a longtime board member, I can tell you approximately. So, and I know Carol will steal me wrong, but there was a point in time where the schools got a recurring contribution to their budget to focus on true recurring maintenance costs. At some point around 2013-ish, the county changed the capital budgeting process and the definition of what's capital. My personal opinion is that it was that redefinition of what's capital and what's not capital that did away with that recurring funding for the FMRR stuff. I would love to see a time where we reverted back to some process that's different than it is today that helped us address the true facilities, maintenance, restoration, recovery, all that, because your point at the end was right. The current process leads to a lot of crises. The two that I love to illustrate the most are, I'll get the years wrong, one year we had a HVAC unit go down. The missing part was unavailable, and I don't mean like unavailable in the local area. I mean unavailable to the point where they had to machine the part out of a block of metal. The second example was a year in which we were a little bit luckier. The part was found. No current Honeywell employee knew how to install the part. They had to hire some guy who had retired 25 years ago to come out of his retirement at some exorbitant amount of hourly rate to install said part. So I'm glad that you recognize that and see that, and I would love to have discussions between the two boards about how do we better split capital and avoiding crisis management and keeping up with the things that we know have limited life cycles.
So, for example, I saw on Mr. Hartley's budget or presentation, he had a notation about sealing the asphalt. That just strikes me as an expense that saves potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars and really shouldn't be in a capital project at all. It should be a recurring kind of you're actually in that discussion reducing your depreciation expense by a tiny increment. But anyway, that's just me.
And thank you for making those observations. I'll speak for our maintenance department and our staff. It's about stewardship. You want to take good care of your resources and good care of your equipment and good care of your school, so you do not end up on a point where you have to invest so much just to make it effective or worthwhile.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make a last comment, and let me address the FMR&R one more time. Somehow, whether the depreciation expense is, I'm not an auditor, whether the depreciation expense is carried on the county budget and funds are set aside to take care of that, or we both do it in our separate budgets and accomplish the same task. I probably, Ms. Callaway's over there cringing at my lack of audit etiquette, but it's just not fiscally responsible not to fund your FMR&R.
If I could make a comment. If I recall 2 years ago, Mr. Anderson, we were sat at this table at this meeting. We proposed a resolution to enable the school board to carry over unspent funds capped at a certain amount. And something like that, an action like that, perhaps would facilitate that kind of funding. It'd be nice perhaps to revisit that.
Just to make that clear, we've tried that twice and made no progress.
Third time could be a charm.
Yeah, you're one of the two.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do have just an off-topic question. And I'm going to put my doctor's hat on for just a quick second. Thursday morning, I was privileged to be invited to go to the Gloucester Matthews Care Clinic second annual breakfast celebrating whatever. And that was a wonderful event. Is there a need, or has there been a thought about putting a healthcare professional in the high school, for example?
I mean, I can't confirm that. I know you would be way more familiar with what's happening in Gloucester, preventative care. We know we have students that count on those things. They may not be getting it. We would not be turning it down, but I'm not aware of any conversations.
Dr. Orth?
I want to get back to the LCI. So I've seen the equation, it's really complicated. And who actually develops that? Who gets the data? And does anyone locally look at the actual equation and the numbers that go into it for this county?
There is a formula. We don't, checking the state's numbers is probably a great idea. We are assuming that, but I have no reason not to question them. It really based on a number of factors, including properties, including incomes, and that's both. If you work in the shipyard and you're making $300,000, and I don't know if that's how much you make at the shipyard, where that's income here in Gloucester. So when you add all of that up and look at the locality's ability to pay, but I certainly could get you a specific, precise formula. I'm sure that's available should you request it.
I think one time we talked about, and I think Mr. Chriscoe brought up this, that those numbers are, the LCIs are based on several years old data. Is that correct? I mean,
It used to be. I haven't seen anything contrary to that.
They redo it every biennium. It's really not a complicated formula at all, and it's all based.
It is.
It's really not.
Yes, it is.
It's not. It's three. It's a simple math equation. It's three. And the best part is it's all published, so you can look at the breakdown of Gloucester's local composite index math. The state shows the math, and then you could sync it up with the publicly available information. So I look at it every year, and I've never seen a discrepancy in how. I think the disagreements in the JLARC studies are not focused on math. They're focused on the whole premise of how the three categories are broken down.
Okay, yeah, right. I mean, it's such an important element in how schools are funded, and probably hasn't been looked at in quite a while. And the demographics and everything have changed in this state, and it's important that whole thing, the whole factor, be looked at, because it's important for not just this community, but the other communities that are losing people.
Folks have described as the LCI as a broken process because of those factors. They're advocates for, particularly the JLARC, that want to do a per pupil across the state, which would make it a lot easier for all of us.
Mr. Nicosia, I think it's more antiquated than broken. But Mr. Nicosia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to piggyback on something Dr. Leming and kind of bring it to put it in a different perspective. So many times I think that we are countywide, so not just the school division, but the county as well. It's reactiveness instead of proactive. I think we need to change the philosophy. I think we need to start looking at the proactive side, because if you look at some of the things that, and I'll use Mr. Hartley for an example, if you look at some of the things Mr. Hartley has on his capital improvement list, I've been looking at that stuff as an employee long before I was a board member, right? And so it's not until it comes to the point of Mr. Hartley or whoever's in Mr. Hartley's shoes says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has to be taken care of. We have no more time. So for me, I agree with Dr. Leming, and I agree with Mr. Andersen, but I think it's a philosophy. It comes down to a philosophy change, more of a proactive outlook versus a reactive outlook. And I think a lot of times we do things from a reactive standpoint more than a proactive standpoint. How do we achieve these goals? Yes, we have lower standards. On this end, no secret, Ms. Steele did a good job the other day putting her budget down. The money's not there, but the problems aren't going anywhere. So we need to prioritize those problems, and we need to figure out which ones are important, and we need to be proactive about those instead of being reactive. And that is just something that I see as a sticking point. We're at the point where we have to do something, and so I think it's just how we just need to change the approach. It doesn't change the situation. It doesn't change the problems that we have or the issues we need to battle. We just need to change the way we look at them. And I think FMRR, from you guys' perspective, is something that you really need to look at, because how do you battle some of that stuff? You battle some of that stuff by having a little bit of money to do a little bit of stuff along the way.
Mr. Bonniville?
Mr. Vladu, thank you for the great job you've been doing, by the way. I want to point that out first. A couple questions. I noticed the decrease with New Horizons. Are we seeing a lack of students heading over the river? Is that what we're seeing, or is there a reason behind that?
Yes, there's been a struggle trying to get folks to go to Butler Farm campus. If you drove to Hampton, you're really looking about 55 minutes with no traffic on a school bus. I know we spent 4.5 hours and 4.5 back, probably take a little longer than that. And then the other thing is students miss their friends. And so that's an area that I think we need to look at. Can we have our own programs here? And the cost savings, figure out a way how to educate and provide workforce development here, rather than send a limited number of students, anywhere between 14 to 30, and the money that we're paying for that. So those conversations are happening. I believe we had several trips to look at some other models, one to Culpeper, Winchester, and I believe Danville, to look at workforce development programs. So those conversations are in progress.
So you and I have had several conversations about this topic. I'm a big proponent of it. My only thing is, first and foremost, do we know that we have the numbers to instill this program? Do we have an interest list generated already?
Well, that's a great point. So we would want to survey the community,
Okay.
right? We don't want to create programs without actually asking them. You know, they have children, they're invested. What programs should be interested in? What is the capacity? And I can tell you, cosmetology, we can't keep enough kids in that program. Nursing, who would have thought? CNA, certified nursing assistant, almost 40 per year, and now EMT. So there's a little bit of both. That one, if you have the program, people will come, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know. But community engagement, I couldn't be more clear that we need to reach out to them, ask them what their needs are, involve them in forums and processes, and let them help us with that.
Well, and I think we see that in the numbers too, with the amount of students that are leaving and going right into the workforce. And having that preparation is key. I'm breaking out my crystal ball here, and I'm seeing that you're going to come back next year and say we need a place to do all this. What is your plan of attack with that?
Well, let me give you some numbers, and we could certainly provide it. So on average, we pay anywhere between 1 to 1.1. This is special education and CTE, $1 million. For their 16 slots, special educations, and 14 in New Horizons. That's 30 students. Can we serve those students right here? There's $1 million that we could figure out, whether it's financing or grants. Our goal is to make this as budget neutral as possible, particularly when the money's there, but it takes a little bit of leadership, a little bit of creativity, a little bit of, taking a leap of faith. And we are beginning to have those conversations, and we look forward to involving several of you on both boards, as well as the community, to exploring these options.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Can I add one thing to that? I thought you were going to go further down that road. So there's already a committee focused on finding the right answer to where do we do this and how do we absorb those issues. And so there's already been one visit. So the members there would be myself and Drew from the school board, and then Tony and why am I forgetting the last one? Yes, Ms. Hanson. That's it. My apologies. They visited a facility in another school district, and then our next step is March 25th. We'll come together as a group to kind of dig more into what they saw and figure out what we know what the answer was in that community. What's the right answer for Gloucester? Is it renovate an existing facility that we have? Is it add on to a facility that we have? Is it create some new facility somewhere? And so through that process, we'll be able to make sure that we make that clear to both boards. Like, how do we know we have a need? And I'm sure we'll talk more about like how do we survey, because there's a lot of variability that Drew and I have seen. Like, what's important in the CTE world to some isn't important to others, and vice versa. And so how do we move the community forward on the CTE aspect for the least amount of investment possible to meet those needs? So I was glad that committee was formed.
And I agree. I mean, where I work, we work with New Horizons from time to time. And I know that talking with the kids, usually it's the commute is the issue. Mm-hmm. Again, you're 2+ more hours within it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just curious where it's going from here. Thank you.
Ms. Hanson, then Mr. Drew.
Mr. Anderson, this is for you, since you have the knowledge of this. The FMR money that you were, forgot an M. How did y'all come about getting those funds to keep that perpetuated, or that fund perpetuated? Where'd that come from?
My recollection, it was just a standing county, I'm looking to Mr. Hartland, just a standing value from the county in our operating budget. And that was defined, the use of those funds was clearly defined as true maintenance and restoration of things. And and like I said earlier, that definition, the line between FMRR and capital was blurred, and now things you used to see money for are now ending up in our capital plan because that's the only place left to put them.
So what was the max amount that you were all allowed to spend from that funding?
I would have to go back and look through budgets to give you any sort of reasonable answer on that. I'd be happy to do.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. So you're saying that we allocated funds in previous years to that particular fund for y'all?
Yeah, but it's been a long time ago since that happened.
I think that was about the time we went back to 160 days. There was a big issue with funds at a level, and I'll look too, but I remember my first year on the Board of Supervisors that the board raised the personal property 30 cents to buy 3 buses a year, and I think those buses cost then about $110,000 a piece, and they're quite a bit more expensive these days. But I think we were able to do that maybe 2 years before we that's not going to work either, because that's unsustainable, and the money, we needed the money somewhere else. But Mr. Drew, I know you had something.
I was going to add about the future of what the workforce is going to look like. The Department of Labor has said, I believe, between now and 2030 or 2040, 40% of the job market right now will be AI. Jobs are going to just disappear. So we need to focus on where, and this is going into the CTE thought process, we need to focus on what the community wants and what's going to be sustainable, not 10 years, 20 years. We're looking at 5 years, or even, I'm talking about somebody who gets a skill and they're able to stay in that workforce for 20 years. I do know that a lot of our CTE programs that we have now, they're turning away kids because they just don't have enough teachers. Cosmetology, for one. We have one teacher in there right now. She's getting ready to retire in the next couple of years, and we need to start being proactive and not reactive. With a facility that we have seen, 2 locations had HOSA, they had EMT, and they had firefighting. The kids that were in firefighting were taking EMT, and the kids that were in EMT were taking firefighting. That right there would pay forward into the county. We're going to get kids coming out of those programs coming into that. So something to think about.
Mr. Drew, based on what you were just saying, it also backs up the slide on page 10, because 30% of our graduates go to full-time employment where they're not going to college.
I'll lay one other thing on you. We went to Winchester, and they had CTE for all. Every kid that went to high school had to go to a CTE program to graduate.
I would think that you might want to look at Louisa, because we went there years ago before the high school was remodeled, and I'm going to be off on this, but one year they had a horticulture turf management. The 1 year they won the soccer field was #1 in the country, and a year or 2 later the softball, baseball fields were #1, #2 in the country, and they were all done by the students. So, that's something that you can look at.
Thank you. We'll reach out to him.
Yeah, and I would add Rockingham to that. We were out there a couple years ago too, and quite an impressive program.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to add one more. I could talk about CTE all night. But I think we can't forget too, it's one of the biggest attributes of Gloucester County Public Schools. And even Nick, you'll remember this, like when we went through the high school, it was college ready. Like there was no other word. The motto was college ready. But that was the bad news. The good news is shortly after we left Gloucester High School, there was this epiphany that we're talking about tonight, which is not everybody's going to college. So the mantra changed from college to college or career ready. And so
you went to college. I went and became a firefighter EMT. Look where we're sitting. So
bingo. And so that acknowledgement was step one, and then that was followed by years of growth in our CTE program, which we've had, but we're not done growing. There's room for more. And every time we haven't had one recently, but I think the one that sticks out in my head is our auto mechanics. That senior got picked up on Mercedes' radar. I picked the wrong brand, but they proactively reached out to him, and before he walked across that stage, he already had an offer from them, like, tell us where you want to work. We'll help you get there. We'll help you get settled. So there's no shortage of success stories from Gloucester County CTE programs, and we can only keep going. But we've adopted the main mantra, which is our focus is college or career ready.
I want to thank you for those suggestions. The other thing I want to say is, as we're visiting these places, Gloucester County Public School is almost there. I mean, we're not starting from scratch. If you were to go to the peninsula or anywhere else, you would have to, we have to develop automotive, a cosmetology, an EMT, culinary, Future Farmers of America, all of that. We have a lot of that. We are 90% of there just finishing up to serve those students with 4 or 5 additional programs. Thank you for those comments.
I just want to piggyback on Mr. Nicosia's comment about being proactive. I believe wholeheartedly that the community engagement coordinator is being proactive because it's engaging our community with our school, and I think that's being proactive to get information out to everyone. The grant writer, I think, is definitely being proactive because it probably will pay for itself time and time again. So I think his thoughts on being proactive, I think, is vital for us all to think about, and I'm hoping that all of you will support that. The only other thing I have is the property that we have at Page, way back during the tornado that hit Page, when we built on the new property, there is also a lot of land there that could have and house a CTE building of some sort. That could be a metal building, it could be whatever the committee and the board and the school board decided to do. But there is property already bought, paid for, available to utilize. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Yep, Mr. Drew.
I know we have a working group that's the CTE. What I would like for each one of the folks on the Board of Supervisors, if you guys could reach out to some of these big businesses and see if we can't get some partnerships, especially the shipyard. We've got people that live in this county, drive all the way over there to teach welding. We could have them teach here, and it would be a pipeline for them. But we've got to reach out to those companies. We've got to, and I think the community engagement person, that could be part of the job. Reach out to some corporations. Let's get some people behind us to, look, we've got great kids. We've got a great community. And if our schools are going up, people are looking at Gloucester. I mean, we had a representative come in from the government, from the state. They came in. Why did they do that? Because I think Gloucester's on the precipice of people are taking notice of what's happening here. And what are most people do? If you talk to a realtor, what's the first thing that a family will ask? What are the schools like? So we'll get influx with people with kids. I have a feeling we will. But we can't take our foot off the accelerator, and we can't be reactive. We've got to be proactive. And, the 2 years, 5 years I've been on the board, good gracious, how time flies. We've seen more progress. It's just been phenomenal. And two boards working together is fantastic. Our board, school board, we work together really well. And I think that's a reflection of the Board of Supervisors working with us, our community, and the kids. Just seeing the kids at one of our school board meetings, it makes your night to see those kids come in here with their families and show off with a little parade, or, bring us cookies and stuff like that. And I'm willing to take any kind of cookies. So, but the kids are our future, and if they don't have a way to better this nation, we're in trouble. So I'm a big fan of CTE. I took auto mechanics when I was in high school, but my high school had the CTE program right there. It was called VOTEC back in the day. And it gave me something that I could just fall back onto if I didn't want to go to college. I had something I could go work in a shop. So that's what I want to give these kids. I want to give those kids that don't know what they want to do, especially the ones that are in GED. We do have kids going to general education diploma projects, right, we can do that CTE for them as well. They're not part of a forgotten society, if you will, because a lot of people look down their nose at GEDs, but there are kids out there that work better with their hands than they do looking at a book. So anyway, that's just my thought process. Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Nicosia.
To Mr. Anderson's point, one of the things that they told us at Winchester the other week was that they had one or two students that were going to Ivy League colleges, that are choosing to go to Ivy League colleges, but they're leaving there with backup plans. So, and if I may just tell you, because that specific location is the one I went to, it's very refreshing, and I'll tell them myself. Teachers know when Dr. Vladu is coming to visit. We just do. There's this sense that hits the air that he's coming in the building. However, I don't think they may have, but you wouldn't have known it. I don't think these children at this particular CTE school even knew we were there. They went along about their business, and what I found to be, what I thought was very interesting about it was kids were working in all of these areas. They were sitting in groups, working together, and they know that, as the superintendent said, they know that as long as they're here and focused on what they're here for, they have all the opportunity in the world, 4 years, to do anything they want. Right? Anything we got under the roof, they have an opportunity to participate in. However, there's a standard set that if you don't, that if you mess up down here, we're putting you back up the hill, and you have cost yourself an opportunity. And so those students, I was just impressed by how they went about their day, not even paying attention really that we were even in the building. I mean, they acknowledged us when they went by, but they just went on doing what they wanted to do, and it was very structured, but at the same time, a very relaxed atmosphere, and I thought that was fairly interesting.
Just to add on to that, he said we specifically treat these kids like adults. And that's where that direction came, because they were so focused and they were treated as they were adult in a working environment. And that goes a long way.
I can't wait the teacher and me talk about this and I know we're looking at this time, but I want to sort of capitalize on that visit. So every visit has been different, and that's the wonderful thing. And looking at Rockingham and Louisa is going to be great. The creativity came with the curriculum. If English classes were paired with CTE classes, so if you like working on cars, you would write on what's the latest model. Compare Honda Accord with a Sonata, and then what are the differences in engine displacement, combustion types, all of that. So now I'm naturally interested. If I wanted to go to college to, doctor, lawyers, and I wanted to medicine, well, your entry was into phlebotomy and giving IVs and centrifuge and doing all those medical tests. So when you pair up an academic program with the CTE, that was the advantage. It is culture changing. And yeah, you treat kids like adults, they act like adults. And it was just the creativity and the innovation of the curriculum is what stuck with me.
I think one thing that really stuck to me as a teacher is when the superintendent said, "Hey, these kids go to the bathroom when they want to." He said, "You go up the hill. A student has to ask you." And talking to us, said he or she has to ask you to use the restroom. You have to give them permission. If they're not back in a certain amount of time, you got things you need to do. So these kids are treated like adults. If they got to go to the bathroom, they spend too much time in the bathroom, it affects them and what they're trying to do. Well, we're not chasing them down. And so that little piece just stuck with me. How it's a student driven world in an adult environment.
Well, nope, Mr. Hutson.
Quick question. When you're presenting the budget to the school board, is it very similar to the way it's presented to us? Do you have breakdown of different line items throughout, or is it just cumulative levels right now? Because I didn't see the presentation you did to the school board. I apologize.
No worries. So tonight's presentation was, January we presented some information. Again, we came twice in February, then in March, so it was a combination. Did we drill down into those additional categories much more than tonight? Probably, but not to the level where you take away, some of those categories and you go, I didn't tell us, do we need this many buffers and we need a scrubber. We didn't break it down like that, but we have those documents. It is available in Excel spreadsheets, and those requests come from the departments.
That slideshow you just received is only one slide different than what we got at our last work session, and the only additional slide is the slide that breaks down the revenues by source. That's it. So it's the same.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? I know we never really went into supervisor and school board discussion, but I think we have covered that unless there's something else for the good of the two boards. Seeing nothing, I will allow Ms. Parker to ask for her adjournment.
I move that the school board adjourns.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And before you guys jump right up, the Board of Supervisors can go to a brief recess so that we can reset for the remainder of our meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are
Sorry, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. As we finish, you might see a few board members standing up, sort of stretching their legs. It's been a long day for all of us. We will now move into a grant application for the Virginia Dam Safety Flood Prevention and Protection Assistance Fund. Miss Katie Legg, Director of Utilities. I know I'm going to get in trouble for that.
Good evening. So yes, you have another long grant name in front of you. So this is an application that is through the state, through the Department of Conservation and Recreation that actually regulates dams in Virginia. And this is their dam safety, flood prevention, and protection assistance. So they offer grants. I know, I just got to say it too.
It never gets old. No matter how old you get, it doesn't get old.
It really doesn't. So they offer grants for two different types of projects. It could be an engineering project or it could be an actual construction type project. So what we're applying for is considered construction project. This is to make improvements to the spillway. So you all have heard me talk before about these types of improvements that we are proposing is actually meets some of the criteria from our DEQ consent order with the chloride streaming meter. But also now we've added sort of a safety and flood awareness component to make it more eligible for this grant program. So the original project was already going to have this flow meter installed in the reservoir outlet pipe that would just tell us how much was going through so that we knew that we were diluting our chlorides appropriately. But now we are going to mount the flow meters in such a way that we will be able to tell the depth of the water coming through the pipe all the time, so that if we see that that level starts to rise, we can see from the lab up the hill that maybe we might have some sort of flooding event on the way. It will give us an idea of whether or not we're going to hit that probable maximum flood, which is what we've done our inundation study about and all the impacts to the 400 plus properties. So by adding that component in and being able to monitor it remotely gives us a very good chance for this grant. So this grant is, they consider high hazard dams a priority, which we are, given the number of properties that we could affect should we have some sort of dam failure. And the project will fund up to $500,000 or 70%, whichever is less. So the project right now is estimated to cost about $815,000. Our maximum request will be $500,000. The grant is due at the end of March and does require a resolution from the board offering support. The grant itself is reimbursement at project completion, so there will not be reimbursements along the way. You have to complete the project before they will reimburse you. So you have a resolution in front of you on page 52.
Any questions for Ms. Legg?
Happy to answer questions.
Before we discuss the dam safety grant.
Mr. Chairman, so it's a one-time grant, and usually when we get these things, it's like, you know, something else comes up, whatever, but this is specifically for the mitigation of the dam, the flood, right?
Yes, so this isn't like a phase one,
Right.
and now I'm going to hit you with something. I might hit you with something else next year, but it would be separate. So for example, anything that's contained in this grant, if it's approved, is no longer eligible for a future grant under this program. So if there is another grant application that comes through, it will be something different related to the dam or flood prevention.
Mr. Hutson.
Ms. Legg, I know this doesn't affect the reservoir, but a couple years ago we had the issue on 14 with that dam.
Mm-hmm.
Could we submit too? Or what is the issue there?
That's not our dam.
That's
That's a private one.
It's private.
It's private.
So the actual dam owner
It's not our dam.
has to apply for the grant. I will say that when I attended their webinar, when this round first came out, there were multiple private owners on that call, including local.
So were they aware of it? Do you know?
Of the grant? Yes, because they were on the webinar.
So they were on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'll make the motion that we,
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Steele?
Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Ms. Hanson? Mr. Bonniville? Dr. Orth? Dr. Leming? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Steele, for catching him right in a snack moment there. Next up, we'll have a decision on tax rates for advertising and authorization to set public hearing. Ms. Steele.
Thank you. So you have been provided information last night and today that will be posted. It's the same information that's on the screen. They'll be posted as part of the board packet as an addition. Thank you. And the purpose tonight is not necessarily go as far as y'all want with the energy that you have at this late hour into any kind of budget discussion, but the item agenda is to set the advertising rate, something that we do at this time that you all do so that we can keep on schedule. I did note in the weekly report you have a little bit of an option that may be important to, I know we would like to get you more information on the B-poll tax that we have not been able to do yet. I know I'm echoing.
Yeah.
Okay, how's that? Much better, yes. Can you hear me now? So you have the option of if there's additional tax, that could be worked out at the next work session and still make the schedule. I think our Ms. Callaway and I were suggesting that the more you can do tonight, though, the better and transparent it is with the public to see what might be coming versus sort of splitting things up too much. The other thing is Ms. Callaway sent extensive information to Mr. Wilmot, and some of that has been resolved as far as what do we need to do to be able to do all of these different taxes, like the cigarette tax that you haven't done before. That information, again, partially reviewed. Some of it, additional work needs to be done and finding out exactly which ordinance and things that have to be changed. But before staff does any more additional research on getting something approved, it would be good for the board, like if you all decide you don't want to think about a cigarette tax, then we're not going to work on one anymore, that kind of a thing. So just for the public's sake, I'll just quickly go through the slides. And that we're looking at the revenues. Again, this is done with assumptions, not for certain rates, just to give you somewhere as a starting point, and sometimes that's the maximum that you could do, and to make sure that you would have enough to cover the budget requests. We were talking before the meeting, it's not going to affect the advertisement of the budget, but obviously the school board, their request is greater than what I presented to you as the superintendent's. So I just want to make sure that that's understood. And I would also note that the positions that are a part of the county's budget included a part-time community education coordinator at the high school, because that's what the department head turned in. But obviously you could see the difference from what the school board was suggesting. So here are the revenue assumptions that you would max out the cigarette tax the same as everybody else is doing around us and would be part of that group. It's 40 cents. And then the boat fee, it's varying fees that are based on the tonnage. We just kind of put in some proposed ones. And we're not 100% sure that you all can do a boat fee. It's something that we knew that 3 other localities were doing, but literally tonight we thought, well, maybe we're not finding that around because it's their cities and we don't have the ability to. So we're not sure. That's one of the things, like if you're interested in the boat fee versus a boat tax, or only the boat fee, we will follow up more on that. We use the boat tax at the dollar rate that you've had before. Meals tax maxed out with the 2% added in. Personal property, just kind of taking a stab at it of saying, what if there was a 5-cent tax increase? Most importantly, though, and it looks very significant, is using the real estate tax rate that would cover the full budget gap, which is even greater than the amount of the equalized. So this is how they break out. The total potential revenues is more than you would need. That is one of the things that we've done before, that we've suggested to the board and that you all have adopted in the past, sometimes more ability so that you would have some flexibility in changing things. So it's up to the board how you would like to handle any and all of these tonight, other than it's important to get the personal property tax rate and real estate tax rate out now for our schedule.
So,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Dr. Leming, then Dr. Orth.
Ms. Steele, I'm asking not only for my own benefit, but for any of the public's benefit who are watching tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong. If we do not advertise a potential increase, then we cannot increase at all. If, on the other hand, we advertise for a potential increase, let me use an arbitrary number of 10, we can select no increase or any number in between 0 and 10.
Yes. That is correct, and it's one of the hard things, similar to what we were talking about the capacity, to get out to the public, because they will sometimes read, oh, I heard that the real estate tax rate is doing this or that. I would also say on the expense side, as you have the ability to not go anywhere near what those total requests are. So it's on both sides. This is a starting point that allows you to have that flexibility.
Thank you.
And then provided, again, some background information.
Ms. Steele.
Yes, I'm
a quick
sorry.
question. So would we advertise, if we agree, a tax and a boat fee, or one or the other? Because you have your numbers added to 9.7.
Yeah, I don't think the boat fee is going to be allowable to counties in the Commonwealth.
Okay, okay. So
Based on the head nod and the shake from Mr. Wilmot, I think we would need to, if we want to do anything, would be boat tax.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I don't think we should do a boat fee anyway, because people with the lower value boats are going to pay more potentially, and then the higher value boats are going to pay less.
That's true.
Okay. All right, so the cigarette tax information I've forwarded to the county attorney additional, but I just kind of hit some highlights of the group. I will also mention, that's not a bullet on there, but Virginia has the 44th lowest cigarette tax in the nation. So if you're concerned that if we added this, it would make us like New York or some other place, we are 44th.
Mr. Chair, real quick question on that. With the cigarette tax, is there any upfront cost to us?
No.
Or is it's literally as like a membership?
Right.
Okay.
But I thought the Commissioner of Revenue said that she would need a staff person.
No,
Oh,
not going this way. The state allows you to do it locally, but there is no way in the world that you really should look at doing that, because you would not have as much net gain, and the state doesn't want to do that, because when you go through an authority, they put the stamp on at the state level. You don't have to hold the stamps. You don't have to do anything. They work with you, and the wholesalers prefer it too. So we wanted to get the biggest bang for the buck, and we've really seen how that since this started in 21, the Chesapeake Bay region has grown by leaps and bounds.
It will cost us 5% of whatever the total is.
Right, we'll get 95%. All right, so we'll skip the boat fees. We can confirm, and I think it's said, I couldn't see Mr. Wilmot over there, but it sounds like he knows that's probably the reason. Here with the red, we said we didn't know where the board might want to start, but we just suggested some potential, I'm sorry, that was back to the boat fees, but we did suggest those. The boat tax, we went with the $1, and you can see the other rates. And then also knowing that the majority of our boats are recreational, the board had indicated keeping the work boats not having a charge, that we would look at a maximum of $586, $827. And then the potential meals tax, this is the same slide as you've seen before, but in the advertisement kind of thing, we were saying if you maxed it out. I think that.
And one thing I know you brought up at the past meeting, that the board could decide where that percentage goes.
Right.
And
You could
mentioned
earmark
utilities.
any of these. You
Right.
could earmark the cigarette tax, you could earmark any of them.
Okay, thank you.
It might be by the amount.
There's no, I know like some of these fees that or taxes that we collect are locked in for what they're allowed to be used for, but these can be used anywhere, correct?
Right. As far as we know, we will be following that up, but I'm not aware of anything, like the lodging tax has that, but not on these. Okay. And then again, we just sort of guessed at the nickel increase. And then we didn't add the full amount. You know that it's 7.7 cents down to get to the equalized rate, but it would take more than the 7.7 to get, if you were only going to meet the request using just the real estate tax.
I want the world to hear that one more time, maybe said a little bit differently.
Okay.
So there are several assumptions in my statement, and I need you to correct me if I'm wrong. If the board were to choose to do nothing other than close the projected gap, I'm ignoring expenses, I'm just talking about the projected gap, on the back of the real estate tax, what would that real estate tax need to become?
And I think the amount, we didn't put it on there, but it's on the other one, I believe. Let me double check.
No, it's
It's on
like
the
10,
I'm
10
sorry,
to
can
12.
you repeat the question? I was looking at another slide that I noticed.
It's the amount with the full.
To cover everything?
Yes.
It would have to go up 10 cents, and it would go to 63.7.
Yeah, I was going to say it's right.
So if, my understanding is that if the board chose to do nothing with any of the other taxes, and we only use the real estate tax as the only tool to close that budget gap, assuming that budget gap is what it is, it would take our equalized rate of 53.7 to become 63.7. Is that correct?
Yes.
So hypothetically then, ignoring the expense side reduction, but still playing with the gap, hypothetically then, by looking at the portfolio of revenues, we have an opportunity to not have the real estate tax bear the full weight. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Well said.
And again, I'll point out that gap doesn't include a little bit more of the schools, but I would assume, wrong to assume, but I would assume that there would be some cuts somewhere along the way that would make up for, if you were going to fully fund what the school said, that there'd be something else that would be cut. So I don't know that you need to increase it any more than that 10 cents.
I guess that's going to be our job over the next 2 months.
I have a correction to one of the slides, if you don't mind, real quick. I apologize. I just want to correct the total on this slide. It should be $9,679,295. I believe, Ms. Steele, we were working on modifying the percentage of the cigarette tax for the 5% reduction and coming up with the number in the middle, and we were doing that in the slide, and it did not make it into the total.
Okay.
What was that total
So
again?
9,679,295.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe that is why that total was off, but those numbers should add to that 9.67.
I was getting ready to say that number then becomes
If you strike the boat
9,487,234.
fee.
Right, the code requires
Instead of
by
40 cents a
by
pack.
cigarette.
Okay.
But that's the way ours are packed.
That was the part of it.
It's a cigarette.
Who sells single cigarettes?
Well, I used to buy
I know, but that was when you were broke and had to buy them off.
and when I smoked, yep. Ms. Steele?
Can we just get that slide
I'll
updated
make
tomorrow or the
those
next day?
updates for you, absolutely.
There's too many numbers to change now.
Yep,
I've lost
I'm
my
with-
spot.
Agree.
I know, but
Mr. Chairman, one question, is that just cigarettes, or is it cigars too?
I have never heard anything about cigars.
I know there was a tax increase with like cigars.
It's called cigarette tax, and they wanted to try change it to tobacco tax to try to get the vaping. I don't know that a cigar is legally called a cigarette. So that's another thing we can find out.
They taxed one
But
another.
I don't think so, because they're charged by, they're done by the pack. They have to have the stamp on them. I just don't see how it could do cigars, but we'll confirm.
I don't think cigars have stamps.
Yeah, I
I've
don't,
never seen one.
Mr. Chairman.
yes, Dr.
Ms.
Leming.
Steele, can I walk through that? Can we just walk through that slide right there for just a second?
absolutely.
So, to be clear, at the moment in Gloucester County, we do not have a cigarette tax at all. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the maximum that we would be able to charge is 40 cents or 2 cents per cigarette.
Yes.
Thank you. I think council has provided us some distinction between municipalities called towns and cities and municipalities called counties. The boat tax today, we have a $0. Is that correct?
Correct.
So let me dive into this just for a brief moment. If I have a recreational vehicle that's motorized and has wheels and I drive it around, that's currently taxed at what rate?
I think that's the same as the car. 310.
Currently, that's taxed at $3.10.
$3.10 per 100 of assessed value.
I'm just asking where the $1 sort of came from.
It was the old rate that was used, and so we used it as it used to be.
Historically, there was a previous historical rate? How long ago
Yes.
was that?
2000.
Yeah, I think it's been even maybe longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know in looking at other people's taxes, like I've seen where airplane and boat are the same, but I think RV is normally the same as a vehicle because it is a
Because who
vehicle.
titles it.
So it's by,
All of that personal property is the same rate currently.
Airplanes, boats, and RVs?
No, airplanes and boats are different. The RVs are taxed as personal property because you have to title them with DMV.
I believe airplanes are the personal property rate, though.
Here.
Yes.
Okay.
The boats are the only exception.
But I don't know where you.
airplanes and
Okay.
airplanes and boats
think
are
we have-
at the same on
So
some of the localities.
so the answer to my question of why that's not $3.10 is because that's the old historical rate that we previously used here.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, and
Okay.
if the board wanted to do something different,
I'm
as
just
even a
asking.
maximum, that you could, I mean.
The maximum meals tax that's allowed by the Commonwealth of Virginia for our locality is 6%. Is that correct?
Correct.
And currently, we are at 4%?
Yes.
Okay. I'm with you. The personal property tax rate is currently $3.10, and that number on to the right of 315 is a proposed 0.05 cent increase?
Yes.
What, okay. Maria, one of the things I'd love to see, especially on the personal property tax, is what percentage that represents?
The percentage of total revenue?
No.
Of
How much,
increase.
what percentage of $3.10 is 5 cents more going to make?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
I think.
And on the real estate tax rate, we're currently at 0.61, but the equalization rate, if applied to the 2026 reassessments, is 0.537.
Right.
So where does the 23 cent?
That's to our current rate at 61.4. If you weren't looking at equalization and you're saying, what is our current tax rate? And this would be increasing the current tax rate up by the 2.023.
Oh, you're talking about taking it from .61 up, I'm with you.
Right,
I
goes
didn't
beyond.
mean to be so dense, I'm sorry, I
No,
apologize.
it's a lot,
Well,
again.
but the reality is, we have to advertise and conclude what the equalization rate is, and then people are going to ask what that increase is to or from the equalization rate.
Right, and there will be a separate public hearing dealing with just that issue.
But to go with Dr. Lemon's question, would a 2.3 cent increase be off the equalized rate be roughly equivalent to the 6,531,000?
That actually is my question.
That's the correct amount. If you look at the chart that has it, if it went,
No, I don't think that, I think it's a different question. No,
Okay,
so it's
sorry.
2.3 cents added to the equalized rate
Yes.
would not give us $6.5 million. No, it would give us about $1.2 million.
1.3. 1.3.
3.
So that's the number that we need to be showing.
Right, that's what I'm asking, Chris.
That's instead of the 6.53.
Yeah.
778. That number needs to be closer to 1.3 and change million difference.
Yeah.
Because it's off the equalized rate.
Correct. Yeah, 0.23 increase would be an increase of one.
Microphone.
from the equalized.
From the equalized rate.
Or we would advertise the 637 with a 10-cent increase. Is that what you're saying?
Or change, yes, or change the 0.023 number is probably the better
I'm picking up.
avenue, is to change the 0.023 to
To
0.01,
to
or whatever it
0.1.
is, whatever the number is.
I know.
I think that would be more understandable to the public. Right.
That's actually what I was trying to drive at, was getting this to be more understandable and more just,
So this,
and then, beside that, whatever that is, represent what the percentage would be.
the percentage increase. For clarification, if you don't mind, this advertisement will go in the newspaper before the equalized public hearing advertisement. And so I'm concerned about ensuring that there's clarification if we advertise a 10-cent increase ahead of advertising the equalized rate. Are you?
So then, with our current rate, what would it take to get us to that 6531778?
The 0.023, right?
Let me think about it.
No, I don't think so.
Because we're at
What
61.4.
is our current value of a penny?
Yeah, okay, so I see what you're saying. So would be the 655, so 1 point.
What was last year's valuation of the penny? Because that's last year's rates, last year's value.
580. If
580.
we're doing last year's rates.
12 cents.
So it'd be a 12 cent, we would need to go to 0.614, would have to go to 0.734 to offset and get to this 6.5 number increase over last year's budget, because we're still working, everything's last year's number, because then it'll change as we equalize it.
Since the penny value changes every year, I'm not aware of us going back to the old penny value, but then maybe I've missed that in the past.
I'm just trying to, because of the way the equalization rate falls, I think we have to look at what's the difference that we have to attain using last year's numbers to meet this year's budget. Meaning if
I think the
that's what we
difference
have
is
to
going to
do.
be if I'm paying 2 cents more, just to make it easy, I'm looking at how did my house assessment go? right? Because I would be looking more like, I've already gone up 16% and you want more taxes versus somebody else. I would never, personally, wouldn't be thinking about what a penny is worth and that what I paid before. I'm thinking more of the value of my home went up and I'm going to be paying more because of that.
But but that's why you equalize, so you don't have to do that. So what I'm trying to get to is getting us to the point where if we hadn't done a reassessment and everything was status quo, what would it take to get to the budget number that we have facing us? And that would be an additional 12 cents if we just did the real estate. And now, or maybe a little bit less, because there's a little bit of natural growth in a couple of new homes, but overall, that number is going to fall in between the 655 and the 580 from last year. It's probably going to be about 600,000, maybe 610. It won't be the full 655.
Conservative, if you want to do a 12-cent increase as far as advertising the rates, and that is going to be on the conservative side for generating revenue.
So Mr. Chairman, I understand where you're going. So, Ms. Steele, I think what the chairman is saying is, because we're going to advertise the rates before we have a public hearing on what the equalization rate is, then we have to use current numbers to have it make sense to people. Because ideally, we would have it the other way. We'd have an equalization rate public hearing and say, now this is the number we're going to work from. But at the moment, the public doesn't know what that number is legally, although we've thrown it around a little bit here.
But that number could change, too.
I'm just going to say the number could change. Our working number right now is 0.537. But because, that's what I want to say, Mr. Chairman.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, we're set on the equalized rate, are we not, or will that be changing?
The results from the BZA stuff would probably change it slightly. It may not. It may be a decimal point way out at the end, but
I don't ever want to say I'm final, because I'm comfortable with this rate. However, there could be fluctuations throughout.
And I think we asked Mr. Thomas looking at if everything went, and he was saying we were good. So I don't know. That was a point I had forgotten to state. So
we're close. Okay, how about you go?
Isn't the only thing you need to decide tonight is what to advertise for your real estate tax rate? Right. And set aside the equalized stuff. Sure. That's going to happen pro forma, automatically. You got to do it. But tonight, shouldn't you just advertise it up to 0.637? Right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, then that's done.
But if we do that, we also need to advertise that it's going to be here. Because, good and well with the boat tax, that's going to bring people in. If we advertise at the 63.7, yes, it's only a 2.3 cent increase.
Up to, yes.
But that's what we're advertising.
Yes, sir.
But once it's equalized, then it becomes 12 cents.
That's exactly right.
So I understand what you're saying, but I think we also need to advertise it being with the public hearings, and at least the public hearings, they need to be here.
Could we?
I think they are. I think they are.
The equalized rate?
that was what I was going to go with, is saying, can't we just state what the equalized rate is?
I wouldn't, because you don't know what it's going to be. You go on the current rate as it is, and what you are enabled to do up to a 0.023 cent increase on the current rate.
If I looked at that as a homeowner, I'm going to look at that rate and I'm going to go to my assessment and I'm going to figure out what my bill is.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
That to me is simple versus saying 12 cents, because I don't care. I'm going to be looking at how much more my bill goes up. So I can do it off of that 6.3. As soon as you give me a tax rate, I can divide by 100 and multiply times 0.63. And I think that's what most people do. But I'm not trying. I may be missing something.
I think it will unduly confuse people. and raise ire in people if you say it's 12 cents off the equalized rate. So it's a process we have to go through, and we will go through that process to equalize the rate. But the fact is, we have a certain tax rate here per 100, and you perhaps want the ability to have wiggle room to increase it up to 0.023 cents per 100. I think that's what you should do without confusing people and raising ire.
Mr. Chairman, what we need to do?
Well, we're going to need to, there's a public hearing notice at your places with tax levies on it. I'm going to disagree because a 0.23 increase to 0.637,
It's disingenuous.
it's disingenuous, and it's a 2 cent increase is $1.31 million increase in our revenue. A 0.23 is, I can do the math, but I'm not going to because we've been here long enough, but 0.23 does not get me 6.531778.
No, it's 12 cents that gets you there.
Correct. Or 10 cents.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So can we just walk through this and fill in the blanks? I think I hear council say the number for real estate is 0.637.
Well, certainly, Dr. Leming, that I overstep my bounds all the time. It's what you advertise, as you indicated before, is your max.
Right, I understand that.
And so I urge you to provide enough wiggle room for y'all to
Well, I would think the
go up to
0.637
that.
would supply
But it could be anything that you'd like.
Right, and I want to thank staff because they have the option here, and they broke it down into pennies and 7.7. You know, if we were to enact all these taxes, we would only need about 7 cents. If every other tax passed, we would only need 7 cents on the real estate, but I agree, we need to leave the wiggle room. But we do have at your sheet the tax levies as discussed. We would need to make sure we don't mention anything here that is a fee, which I don't know if it's on this one or not. Okay. Okay.
Well, I don't mean to be silly, Mr. Chairman, but can I move this piece of paper to move this conversation along?
Absolutely.
Can we adopt this and fill in the resolution with the numbers that are on this document?
As long as the fee's not there, yes, sir.
I don't believe there's a fee here.
Good. So it would be
There's no cigarette tax.
So it would be $1 for the boat tax. It would be 6% for the meals tax. And this is maxes. It would be $3.15 for the personal property tax rate. And it would be 0.637 for the real estate tax. And so that's it, right?
The cigarette and meals aren't on.
Right.
And I would amend that by the cigarette tax and the 2% increase in meals tax.
That's different.
We don't have to do that one tonight. We just got to do the one that's here.
We don't have to do that tonight?
You don't have to if you would like to.
I like the fire.
I think there's pros and cons to each way. If you thought that next week, which you're going to have, not next week, week after next, that first meeting, you're going to have Davenport there too, so you're going to have a chunk of time for that. But if you get into that budget work session and you knew, I'm ready to cut $2 million out of the ask, or I'm ready to, do something, then, because that would be the time that you would need to set those other taxes. So we're already looking at bringing you B-poll as one. I think if the board has any consensus of whether you think, however you get to it, would you prefer to have a lower real estate tax maybe in the end and offset by these other taxes? Absolutely. Or are you not?
Absolutely.
Because if you think that's the way you want to go, my suggestion would be that you advertise them tonight.
That's what I was, yeah.
I'm trying to, the overall gist is I think we need to be mature about this in a business perspective and look at the total revenue portfolios. And we ought to maximize sort of spreading the pain in order to minimize the pain on the individual homeowners. And that's kind of my driving philosophy in this conversation. So, for example, I don't have a head nod sitting here, but my perception is that the boat tax, I apologize, the 2 cents per cigarette tax probably has the consensus of the board tonight, whether it's tonight or next week.
The 2 cents for the real meals tax.
No, 2 cents per cigarette.
Oh, yeah, right, because it's a 40-cent pack.
And my sense on the meals tax is that likewise, at least advertising it at 2 cents, maybe we don't do the full 2 cents, but, and so I think if we're going to advertise that we're truly looking at all the portfolio, we ought to truly look at all the portfolio. Now, the B-poll tax needs to come back because I don't know those numbers tonight either.
Right. And
I've got the people tax, but we don't have time to get into it.
Right. Well, the only other thing I would add is the potential revenues are greater than the gap.
I understand.
So if you, I'm not trying to muddy waters, but I wasn't sure whether the board wanted to go to that maximum real estate tax versus being what we had shown you, earlier, and not go beyond.
No, I think, well, Dr. Leming made a good argument that we put everything on the table and that this is the board's prerogative of what we want to do so that we can spread whatever across
the pain
all,
across
the pain. Yeah.
everybody.
So if you leave it at the max, as I said, we don't have to adopt it.
We don't have to stick with that.
Say, and the Gazette's
we
still
can drop
here.
it down.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that
Gloucester
can-
411's already blowing up, so we're good to go. So,
no.
yeah. But I would agree with that. I'd rather say this is worst case scenario, and then come back and say, here we are, and hopefully not make the impact on the real estate tax.
That's what that
we're
spreadsheet's
projecting,
going to be all about.
You
When we have each one of those taxes at the maximum rate, and then we, as a board or individual members, can then manipulate that, and we can see how each of those numbers change.
Absolutely.
So that if, we can say, okay, let's knock out the real estate, and we'll see whether the max sig and all those others make the difference up. And then we have to decide if we want some of the meals tax to go to utilities, which is what was highlighted before.
And I think we know we can't continue on the trend we've been on. We've got to, if Howard were here today, he would talk about that rainy day fund. We've got to have something, but we've got to be smart about what we're doing too. So,
and we will do our best to inform the public, but we can't make everyone believe what we're doing. I mean, they're going to interpret some of this the way we have said, but we are going to have to, at the public hearing, tell people what we're going to do with our budget discussions and how that's going to play into what we finally adopt.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
So let me read the whereas, because the whereas, it is the wish of the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors that the calendar year 2026 tax levies be advertised as .637 for real estate, .637 for public service corporation property, .637 for manufactured homes, $3.15 for tangible personal property not otherwise set out, and then I have to put in the .0, 14 zeros and 1 for one motor vehicle owned or leased by a member of a volunteer fire department that's specified in state code, and $1 for boats. Can I add here, Mr. Wilmot, or should I add it after the next whereas? Whereas it is also the wish of the Gloucester County Board of Supervisors that calendar year 2026 ad valorem tax rates be advertised at .01 for the special service districts, and the Board of Supervisors wishes to increase the meals tax by 2%, and then institute a cigarette tax at the maximum of 2 cents per cigarette.
Yes, sir.
And then that is what we would have if someone would like to make that motion.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Steele, would you poll the board?
You did say mosquito too, right? You said for all.
I mentioned
all of them, right?
Yep, all. It doesn't say all, it just says 2026 ad valorem tax rates will be advertised at .01 for special service districts.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chriscoe.
No.
Mr. Nicosia. Ms. Hanson. Mr. Bonniville.
No.
Dr. Orth. Dr. Leming. Mr. Hutson. Okay, motion carries.
We have one item left. Is there a second? All in favor? We are adjourned.